you. No, you don't call anymore.
It's the 9th day of February 2022. You are right in time for your favorite show in Kenya. That is Good Morning Kenya, broadcasting live from BH. This is KBC Channel 1. Good morning. My name is Victor Lowe. Welcome to the program. Now, a lot of changes is expected to take place since most of the government officials and other parastatal chiefs, government officials, call them anybody who wanted to vie for any political seat, had their last day yesterday in office. And now the president has some choices, either to give the remaining CSs double duty or pick fresh blood to fill those vacant positions for the remaining part of his term. How is it going to happen? Let's wait and see from what will happen from the executive office. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Lowe, and in politics a lot happened. It's now one-on-one. That is the president and his deputy. We'll be discussing that later on in the headlines, what's happening on our local newspapers here. But before then, first things first, the entire team is here. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Resignation Week.
I'm telling you, it's... And our colleague, Boni Musambi, also left. Yes.
It is official. Those who want to go the political way, time is up, and it's about time they now decide, or rather they go to ground, Pigania Kura. But nonetheless, good morning and welcome to the program. I am Jane Wamboi. As always, we appreciate that you choose to start your morning with us right here every single day, Monday through to Thursday. We have nothing but the best lined up for you, so you definitely want to stay with us through and through. And given today is Wednesday, we get to focus on women, and that is what we have lined up for you. So we have beautiful conversations that will be coming up in not too long. We'll also be giving you our social media handles so that you can interact with us, check in, and let us know where you're watching us from this morning. Welcome once again to the program. Doreen.
Speaking of nothing but the best, as usual, that is what we always have in store for you. And it being a Wednesday, as Wamboi has rightly put it, it is all about women, and that is also what you're going to be focusing on today. A lot lined up, a lot of conversation, actually beautiful conversations from what is also making news in the different dailies that we have, and also how our roads will be looking like. We definitely have to also focus on that. And this morning, our focus will be on what is happening along Kipande Road. And like most of the roads that we've seen here in the city and Nairobi specifically, this is one of those roads that really a lot hasn't been happening in terms of various activities that is allied to rehabilitation, either expansion or reconstruction altogether. So this morning, we look at a particular stretch when it comes to the traffic flow. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okemi.
Exactly. Doreen, there's some pictures on social media going around that some parts of Mombasa Road are not so okay, guys. You remember there was this day, was it sometimes last year, where lawyer Ahmed Nasir went to court and sued road contractors when his vehicle was hit by a pebble. So how is it going to be, because the road construction is still happening anyway?
I mean, when you look at it again, there's barely nothing much you can do about it, because just speaking from what you've said, that is Mombasa Road. Still a lot is ongoing on that particular road, especially when it comes to the expressway. I'm so sure perhaps by now you have seen different images running through social media. I almost said social media. Social media on how this road is supposed to be looking like once it's complete. And also remember, we are talking about mid this year when we expect it to be complete, and it's expected to shape how Nairobi is is going to be looking like altogether. Again, also how the East African part of the African continent is going to be looking like. So clearly there's still a lot ongoing, and when you get people, whether those in various seats or even leaders, getting to sue either Kenha or Kura, because there's construction happening. And again, this is why you see any time, or actually since this construction began sometime in 2020, they mentioned that as time goes by, there will be saying which sections of that particular stretch where the expressway is taking shape will be closed and which other sections will be open. Then again, you actually get to see that even on those areas where it's actually closed, some Kenyans will just decide to use some of those sections. Wanajifinyilia tu hapo ndo watumia, so that they do not have to make do with the heavy traffic, because again, when they end up closing some areas, then obviously there'll be heavy kind of traffic. For instance, the section between Kenyatta Avenue and University roundabout has been closed for some time because of that. So I don't think it's really one of those good things to do, but nonetheless, I mean, it's still an ongoing process. So we just wait for it to be complete, so we don't get these leaders getting to either sue Kenha, Kura, or even NMS, those designated to ensure that our roads look better in terms of construction and reconstruction.
Kisikia Dorina akiongelea barabara, man. You think it's a whole relationship, a human?
Okay, so Ray, take it away then.
Good morning indeed. You're watching KBC Channel 1. You're just in time for comprehensive news updates, stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Just to remind you that we are live on our various social media platforms, including our official station handle, Twitter handle, that is KBC Channel 1, is open for your feedback. We start off with matters of politics, and just I want to recap. How do the numbers look like as we get into matters news? Remember, the IEBC failed to reach its target of, in the second mass voter registration exercise of 1 million, just getting 1 million new voters in the second mass registration exercise. However, the IEBC maintains that the continuous registration of voters is going to go on in the 290 constituencies, and this is going to be taking place at the various Huduma centers. So if you haven't or you did not participate in the first and the second phase of the mass voter registration exercise, well, it is on within the constituencies at the Huduma center. Top 10 of the counties in terms of voting block. Do you happen to fall in where the rich vote counties, the richest ones? That is, Nairobi City has 2.5 million voters. However, Mount Kenya, and that's the number I want you to focus on as we continue with the news this morning. When you talk about Mount Kenya, so far, 5.85 million registered voters. Good morning, you're watching Good Morning Kenya. Now let's talk about news, and I'm Regina Manyara. Now the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta is left without 3 cabinet secretaries who have resigned to seek political offices. The 3 heeded a directive from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission requiring all non-exempted public officers seeking elective positions in the August polls.
It is a day that will go down in the history of Kenya, when the country witnessed voluntary resignation of 3 cabinet secretaries within a single day, not fired by the appointing authority. The highest resignation coming from the new position of Chief Administrative Secretaries, an office created by President Uhuru Kenyatta in his last term of office. Not left behind was also a number of principal secretaries and other non-exempted state officers who are compelled by law to resign 6 months to the date of the general election if they have to be cleared. Former Transport CAS Wavinya Ndeti and former State House Chief of Staff Nzioka Waita, who are eyeing the Machakos County Governor's position, also resigned. Former CAS Patrick Olentutu going for the Narok County Governor. Mining and Petroleum CAS John Mosunik, who wants to unseat Bomet Governor Hilary Barchok. Former Tourism and Wildlife CAS Joseph Boynet also resigned to focus on his gubernatorial campaign in Elgeyo Marakwet County. And Lands CAS Gideon Mungaro, who wants to be the governor of Kilifi County, all saying goodbye to public service. Also resigning are staff of various parastatals who are joining the political terrain. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation staff bid farewell to seasoned journalist Boni Musambi of Radio Taifa, who is quitting to vie for Member of Parliament in Kitui Central, with Charles Kariuki Kimani of Shoro FM also resigning to vie for MCA in Ngenda Ward of Gatundu South. Kazungu Munyi of Radio Taifa also going for the Mwavumbo Ward MCA post in Kwale County, and Judy Wanjao eyeing the senatorial seat in Nyeri County.
All the best, especially to our colleagues there who are going to be, in the race, so to speak, for elective positions in the next general election that is slated for 6 months or so from here, August 9th. Now, still keeping up with matters, of the elections, but now from the corridors of justice, is that non-exempted public officers wishing to contest in the August 9th general elections might have until midnight, yesterday to resign. Now, the Court of Appeal quashed an order issued by the Employment and Labor Relations stating that the rule was clear and non-exempted public officers must quit office 6 months before the elections.
All non-exempted public offices eyeing political seats in the August 9th general election have until midnight to say goodbye to their offices. This follows a ruling by the Court of Appeal directing all who wish to vie for political seats to resign 6 months to the general elections. In a ruling delivered by Justice Daniel Musinga and Justice Karanja, the Court of Appeal set aside orders issued by the Employment and Labor Relations Court, stating that the court had no jurisdiction, adding failing to find the issue unconstitutionality and adding finding that there was no public participation. Meanwhile, former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero has suffered another blow after the High Court ordered him to pay 427 million shillings, 269,795 shillings in tax. The ruling by Justice David Majanja comes after an audit conducted by the Commissioner for Domestic Taxes on his financial and business dealings.
On to matters health, where the government will soon commission 3 cancer centers in Nakuru, Garissa and Nyeri counties, where services will be given at a subsidized rate. While commissioning the Regional Cancer Treatment Center at the Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital in Mombasa County, President Uhuru Kenyatta said cancer patients will have access to quality and affordable treatment at the commissioned cancer centers.
The Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital admits 6,500 cancer patients annually. Of this number, about 650 are new cases, while it refers about 400 cases to facilities in Nairobi and abroad due to lack of specialized cancer treatment facilities. It has been a painful and costly ordeal for most patients and their families, especially when the disease causes death. A new dawn has dawned at the Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital following the commissioning of the new state-of-the-art Regional Cancer Treatment Center targeted to treat at least 12,000 patients annually.
Katika hii center ambayo tumefungua leo is life-saving treatment ambao hakuna pahali ingine, labda ufike Nairobi kuna mashini moja mbili na hizo ni za kibinafsi, ni private. Kuna ile ya Kenyatta University, hiyo ni moja ambaye tumefungua hivi majuzi, lakini hakuna pahali ingine. Labda upelekwe India, na kwenda India, huwezi kwenda India kama huna shilingi milioni 2 kwenda juu. Ni Wakenya wangapi wana uwezo wa kulipa pesa kama hiyo? Kunao.
The government hopes to commission more specialized centers in Nakuru, Garissa and Nyeri as it seeks to lessen the financial burden of cancer treatment.
When we talk about access to health within the dream that you gave us, the universal health coverage, this is the centerpiece of universal health coverage. Access to health, affordable health, and excellent standards of health. For the first time in our history, watu wanatoka hospitali ya kibinafsi wanakuja katika hospitali ya umma. Your Excellency, I want to confirm that we are overwhelmed by the referrals that come to us from the private hospitals. Your Excellency, I also want to confirm we are overwhelmed by the kind of support we're getting from professionals, from consultants, from doctors that have specialized, from private sector wanting to practice here in our facility.
While opening the new facility in Mombasa, President Uhuru Kenyatta urged Kenyans to register in mass under the National Hospital Insurance Fund scheme in order to access quality treatment at the facilities.
Hapa utatibiwa vile utatibiwa India, na ukiwa na kadi yako utatibiwa na uende nyumbani bila kulipa hata ndururu moja. Yeah? Sijui kama tunaelewana wenzangu. Bila kulipa hata ndururu moja. Pale pia tumeona upasuaji wa moyo unaendelea. Na unaendelea katika hospitali ya Mombasa. Kitu ambacho miaka 4 tu ilikuwa ndoto.
As he reiterated his commitment to upscale universal healthcare coverage across the 47 counties, the president urged medical institutions to align their curriculum to emerging technological and scientific global health trends.
Onto the political scene, now it's bare knuckle as Deputy President William Ruto says he has never absconded duty and his stores are practical parts of boardroom theories. Now, Ruto, who led his Kenya Kwanza Alliance for a series of rallies in Kakamega, urged Kenyans to vote for development and shun leaders he described as deceitful.
Third day in a row in the Western Kenya region, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance principals led by Deputy President William Ruto continued the vote hunt, making stopovers at various market centers, including Likuyani, Lumakanda and Shinyalu, before the main rally in Matungu in Kakamega County. The Alliance principals told the electorate to shun leaders whom they claimed have no track record and development agenda, even as they sustained their attack on their Azimio counterparts. Deputy President William Ruto maintaining he has been part and parcel of development projects initiated by the Jubilee government.
Wacha niwaeleze watu wa Azimio. Hii serikali mimi na Uhuru tulitengeneza. And Uhuru made an equal contribution as I did. Na katika kundi yetu hii ya Kenya Kwanza, this is the only team that understands what went right and what went wrong. We are able to build on what went right and we are able to correct on what went wrong.
Ruto accusing his opponents in the Azimio wing for seeking to reap where they did not sow.
You first must apologize to the voters who voted for us in 2017 for sabotaging the program that we had campaigned on a platform for them to elect us, before you give us lectures on what you want to inherit and what you don't want to inherit.
This as the Alliance promised infrastructural development to spur economic growth.
Yenye ndugu zetu wa Lumakanda mnakaa hapa karibu na hii barabara kubwa. Mara mingi mmeona matrela inarundikana kutoka Malaba mpaka kule Tarubo. Kweli Rongo? Serikali ya awamu ya 5 itapanua hii barabara kama dual carriage kutoka Malaba mpaka Nairobi. Irahisishe kusafiri na kubeba sehena za mizigo kwenda kwa nchi jirani.
Sera zetu zinashikana, sera zetu zinaandamana, na ndio kwa sababu tukasema kwamba hakuna haja ya sisi kutembea njia tofauti.
Leaders accompanying the principals maintained that the Kenya Kwanza Alliance would clinch power, urging Western Kenya voters to be firmly part of the train.
Tumesema viongozi wetu, Mheshimiwa Musalia na Weta, wakisema left, tunaenda left. Wakisema right, tunaenda. Sasa wametuambia kwamba mwaka huu watafanya kazi na huyu hasla. Mtakubali hiyo maneno? Na hii safari ambayo Wakenya wanatembea kuunda serikali, hakuna mtu yeyote hata unashikilia cheo gani ambayo utazuia. Na tumesema kwa kauli moja, serikali yetu ni hii ya Kenya kwanza. Hawa wanaume wako hapa, lazima mmoja wao ndiye atachukua kule Kasarani.
The Kenya Kwanza boat today docked in Kakamega as it sought to pick more passengers in its extensive charm offensive mission in the vast western Kenya region before setting sail for Trans Nzoia County on Wednesday.
Well, that was happening Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka and says that Oka is under no pressure to form an alliance with Azimio la Umoja movement affiliated to ODM leader Raila Odinga. Speaking after a Wiper Party National Executive Council meeting held in Nairobi, Kalonzo said One Kenya will not enter into a coalition with a non-registered political outfit ahead of the forthcoming general elections. Ben Chumpa reports.
In the midst of the political realignments wave ahead of the August 9 polls, the Wiper Party remains firm, not bowing pressure to seek other partnerships outside the One Kenya alliance.
The Wiper Democratic Movement reiterates its commitment on One Kenya alliance and will continue working towards the strengthening of the alliance.
At its National Executive Council meeting in Nairobi, Kalonzo Musyoka was mandated to explore alliances with like-minded partners.
There are those who say, oh, the most sought after political party in Wiper. Why? Why is it not the case that Wiper wanawahitaji wenzao wengine wengi? So hiyo prejudice ndio ambayo kwanza tunataka tuiangazie.
Their meeting coming days after Oka Principal signed a working agreement set to be officially deposited with the Register of Political Parties on February 28, 2022.
We will negotiate as equal partners and nothing less. As we do so, we will negotiate with partners in good faith and will engage in structured dialogue devoid of any machinations.
On claims that One Kenya Alliance has placed conditions and irreducible minimums for it to join Azimio la Umoja movement, Kalonzo Musyoka said Oka is cautious not to enter into an agreement with an unregistered political outfit.
You can understand why people are also very careful to go into coalitions where you do not end up suffering really from trust deficit.
We said we are looking for partners of equal-minded. And those partners can as well join Oka because you know what? Azimio is nothing. It's not registered. It's something which is not even known what it is. So we don't want to say that we are going to Azimio. We don't want to Zimia.
With April 9 being the deadline for coalition parties to deposit their agreements with the Register of Political Parties, the Wiper Party maintains that such a move will only be considered after sincere and transparent negotiations held in good faith.
Lakini hatutukubali maneno, yani wengine mnakuja kwa meza wanazungumza na wewe na waficha mengine hapo. You cannot negotiate with a weapon in your arms or in your pocket. So
now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission wants Parliament to allocate it 4.5 billion shillings to facilitate a voter verification process and clear urgent pending bills. Appearing before the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, the Commission's Chief Executive Officer Marjan Hussain warned that failure to allocate the funds will hamper the verification process, which is a constitutional requirement.
The National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee engaged state agencies under its purview on the 2021-2022 supplementary budget estimates. IBC CEO Marjan Hussain lobbied for an addition of 4.5 billion shillings to cater for forthcoming voter verification process and clear urgent pending bills.
This verification, if you don't allocate us the budget, it means we'll do verification the way we've done with the voter registration. That is word-based, 3 kits per ward. 3 kims per ward, and we'll continue the way actually we did it for the first, if you don't allocate us. But if you allocate us, it means you're going to deploy more resources, we'll reach out to more people.
Key among the pending bills are monies owed to telecommunication companies and legal fees. According to IBC, the verification process, which is a constitutional requirement, will cost 1.3 billion shillings, while the urgent pending bills amount to 2.3 billion shillings.
Suppose I have not paid Telecom, I have not paid Airtel, I have not paid, and we've not paid them. Suppose they decide not to work with us because we have not paid them.
Those are the non-legal?
Yes, this you can see the ICT. So we are actually in a very awkward position.
The committee members intend to scrutinize the pending bills to ensure they do not validate fraud. The IBC also revealed that the continuous voter registration will still go on at the Huduma centers and constituency IBC offices. The MPs also interrogated the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission's request for an additional 350 million shillings to enhance background checks on political aspirants. The Electoral Agency and the Office of Registrar of Political Parties will again appear before the MPs after 2 weeks to brief them on the state of preparedness for the general elections. Reporting from Safari Park, I'm Geshoke Washira.
We take a quick break. We'll be right back with more news. Do not go away.
Welcome to Kenya, my guy, and the most important thing to this school.
Thank you, bro. Yo, what up, Africa? What it do, what it does, what it done, what it did. It's your boy, super producers.
Can we get on with the lesson, please?
My name is Jules with a Z, but you can call me Juju.
Wacha upompafu. Julia, you are Julia. In fact, Mr. Man, call her Julia.
Solendan, Mashambiki.
I mean, they got the voice, but look at her. She got the looks, bro. And the video is all about visuals, bro. Visuals.
Can you stop shouting? My love, I'm leaving shortly.
Okay, babes. But my love. Nini mbana? Mom, Felix doesn't call you that.
Are you not the same person who says there are no permanent enemies?
What do you want, Kristen?
I need you.
Wendo katafuti wanawake huko kwenyu uwaoe. Juu mimi narudi streets.
Mark, I told you.
This is purely business.
You don't listen, do you?
Baba Felix.
There is nothing there to be proved, Wakele.
In a court of law, it does.
You fools.
Good morning, I'm Regina Manyara and you're watching In the Headlines on Good Morning Kenya, KBC Channel 1. It's the 9th of February 2022 and we pick it up from where we left off. Glad to have you on board. Now, stakeholders are calling for efforts to accelerate access to justice for victims of gender-based violence, according to the Executive Director at the Association of Media Women in Kenya, Judy Kaberia. The surge in cases of GBV is alarming, yet perpetrators still escape the wheels of justice. Cameroon is challenging the judiciary to fast-track the process of setting up a special unit to clear the backlog of gender-based violence cases that are pending in court.
According to the 2014 Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, the most recent national data, over 40% of women in Kenya reported having experienced some form of physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. According to the Executive Director of the Association of Media Women in Kenya, Judy Kaberia, the surge in GBV cases is still alarming despite the stringent legislative and policy framework which criminalize GBV in the country.
Whereas progress has been made to tighten the laws against GBV, establish structures such as the gender desks, polycare, and an emergency reporting system, the upsurge of cases is an indication that either these changes are insufficient or incommensurate to the weight of GBV crimes.
We must make it easy for victims of SGBV to access justice. And that is where we are saying there's a big failure.
It is for this reason that AMWIC, in collaboration with the Urgent Fund Action Africa, is challenging the government to eliminate the bottlenecks of access to justice for victims of GBV.
We urge the judiciary and the government to hasten this process by allocating the necessary resources to pave way for the establishment of the special unit to clear the backlog of GBV cases and hasten the process of justice.
It is very important that we're investing a lot of our efforts in prevention and mitigation of GBV.
The stakeholders are also calling for professionalism in the handling of GBV victims.
And we have established that victims of GBV fail to report cases due to fear of the police, bribery, and further victimization.
Now back to matters business, where Kenya Shipyard Limited has received orders to deliver 17 ship orders and it starts to commercialize its operations. The firm's Deputy Director Peter Muthungu says it plans to extend its operations in the region after the completion of the 2.4 billion shillings MV Uhuru 2, which is set for August this year.
The MV Uhuru 2 is set for its first voyage in August this year, with the ship expected to be the first vessel to be fully assembled at the Kisumu shipping yard. Kenya Shipyards Limited says locally assembling the vessel has saved taxpayer 1.3 billion shillings in ship imports.
That saving, where did it go? Of course, it went to schools, it went to health facilities, it went to other infrastructure projects, it went to social welfare, Inua Jamii, it went to youth empowerment programs. It went to many other projects and initiatives, programs for the sole purpose of enhancing service delivery to our people. That money could have gone to an individual.
The firm says it's seeking to leverage on the 40% tax waiver on shipbuilding equipment by Treasury to increase its operation in the region.
We are using those internationally accepted best practices of ship construction, and I can tell you for free that this will be the first ship in this lake that is certified internationally, with international standards. If you take this ship to any other ocean in this world, the ship will be accepted.
KSL says it has so far received 17 ship orders from both within the region and local government agencies.
We have about 6 orders which we have received. From within the country, we have about 11, and that is why we've commenced with 2 in Mombasa. There we are doing one of the Kenya Navy ships, and also another ship from one of our ministries, departments, and agencies, the Kenya Revenue Authority.
KSL says its partnership with Damen Shipping Construction Company, that has shipyards in South Africa and Egypt, and 39 shipyards across the globe, will enhance Kenya's quest to be a regional shipping construction hub in its long-term strategy.
Decided to have them as our partner simply because we wanted to bridge that gap that we experienced for over a century and a half, having facilities that we cannot use simply because we had no capacity, and we gave them conditions that when they came over here, they should not bring with them workers.
The Uhuru One vessel that was rehabilitated at a cost of 50 million shillings by the KDF has so far made 90 voyages across Lake Victoria, transporting 1.1 million litres of fuel since it was commissioned in 2019.
Decided to have them as our partner simply because we wanted to bridge that gap that we experienced for over a century and a half, having facilities that we cannot use simply because we had no capacity. And we gave them conditions that when they came over here, they should not bring with them workers.
Over to Mombasa County, where 582 housing units under the affordable housing project Buxton project in Mombasa are set for completion by end of June this year.
During a tour of the Buxton Affordable Housing Project in Mombasa County, Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga noted that there increased interest by investors in the affordable housing project.
So kuna zile nyingi ambazo sasa zinangojea financial close, the funding na hiyo ndio.
Hinga says 582 housing projects under construction during the first phase of the 6 billion shillings Buxton housing project will be ready for occupancy by June this year.
With all the social amenities, and our philosophy is very simple. We're selling a lifestyle and giving the people of Mombasa an indication or a show of what a new Mombasa should look like.
In total, the project will have 2,000 housing units.
Wale watu ambao wako informal business, they don't have a pay slip. They're also Kenyans, and we need the whole face of Kenya to be represented in these houses. So pia tuna mpango ambao tutawapatia mkopo at 3%, and then give them 20 years, 30 years. We can even do what is called multi-generational. Ili kama anataka kulipa nyumba 3,000, hiyo ndio anaweza, bas anaingia, lakini nyumba itakuwa yake.
The PS revealed that over 500 families who had moved to pave way for the Buxton Affordable Housing Project will be the first beneficiaries of the modern housing project during the house allocation exercise.
Now that is Buxton housing project down in Mombasa County, and we also know that the president took a tour of Mombasa and decided to enjoy a meal at a famous hotel in Mombasa town. If you've been to Mombasa, that place is Barca. Now that puts us to matters sports, where Zimbabwean professional visitor Mopanya pulled away from the rest of the field after carding 2 under par 70 at the par 72 current country club course, going into Wednesday's final round of the 2021-2022 Safari Tour Series. The winner is assured of 250,000 with bonuses for under par scores in each round. You can get further stories on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. However, that puts a cap on the news this morning. In not too long, we're going to be sampling the various dailies that we have with us in studio. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
This is still in the headlines, but now we get to have a quick look at what the papers have for us today. The hashtag still remains to be Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. I start you off with the Daily Nation. Not so many stories have been featured here, with the main read being about the polls and the question of where the numbers are. They've gone ahead to give a very beautiful breakdown of the numbers that have already been identified by the IEBC. But of course, these numbers will have to go through another refining process before they gazette the actual number of voters that have been registered, the new voters, and also consequently giving now the actual figures in the different region. And just briefly looking at the numbers that have been captured here, now the total number of listed voters currently stands at 22,162,362. This is inclusive of the 2.5 million votes that were registered between the periods of towards the end of last year up until this recently concluded exercise, with Rift Valley having registered 694,000 new voters. We also have Western having recorded 329,000 new voters, and these are rounded off figures just for the in the interest of time. We have Northeastern having recorded 130 new votes, Central 244,000 new votes, Coast had 240,000 new votes, Nairobi 254,000 new votes, Eastern had 340,000 new votes, and of course Nyanza 333,000 new votes. Of course, we'll be giving you the details in just a bit, and they've gone ahead to compare these numbers to the previous numbers that were recorded in 2017, and looking at this 5-year gap, of course these numbers still being way below the target that was set out by the IEBC. Now, away from that, these other stories in regards to the story that was still in the Daily Nation yesterday in regards to the iffy relationship between the president and his deputy, with now the deputy saying, bring it on, daring Uhuru to stand and actually say that he did not contribute to the successes of the Jubilee administration. But critics are saying, you know, you are talking about the successes, but you are not associating yourself with the failures of the same administration as well. Aside from that, we now have that story concerning the fight against cancer in the country, with the new care center in Mombasa, which is set to ease the load at KU Hospital. That is the front page of the Daily Nation for you this morning. Victor.
And on the front page of the Star newspaper, Uhuru to make changes after mass exodus. Mostly Ruto allies quit on day one of resignations. More than a dozen top government officials resigned on Tuesday. Most of them are running for governor in their respective counties. Just to mention, we have got John Munyes of CS Petroleum. We have got Patrick Olentutu, who is CAS Labour, Ken Obura, CAS EAC, Gideon Mungaro, CAS Devolution. We have got Adan Mohammed, CS EAC, Charles Keter, CS Devolution, Wavinya Ndeti, CAS Transport, as well as John Mosonik, CAS Petroleum, amongst others. Of course, today is the last day, and we should expect more resignations later on. And husband killer gets 14 years in prison for strangulation. She pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Judge said that she had to tame her emotions. And Maureen Chebet was convicted after she admitted to a lesser charge of manslaughter. She was accused of killing Elias Kipchirchir Yego by strangulation of February 17, 2018 in Kapsabet, Nandi County. But in a judgment delivered by Justice Ruben Nyakundi on February 3rd, the court said that this considered the accused admission of guilt and sentenced her to 15 years in prison. But the court noted that since the accused was already in custody from March 8, 2018, to date, the court could deduct 3 years and 10 months spent in pretrial custody. So 15 more years in custody. But one thing she said is control emotions. Kenyatta to make changes after mass exits. Of course, that is a story that is on most of the papers here. I have to skip that. Cutthroat clash as Uhuru Ruto exchange words on scorecard. DP says that President can't take credit for Jubilee successes. Many are his achievements. And of course, the DP said that just a day after Uhuru publicly accused him of doing no work for the government and politicking 24/7. And Ruto hit back, claiming that he made Uhuru president. Right, we should expect more to come. The president said that this is the season and they're ready. So Wiper gives Kalonzo freedom to engage ODM leader Raila Odinga. Party says that Kenya Kwanza is not an option as they go out to fish for partners. This now leaves Kalonzo, and of course, after the mass exit last month during an event at Bomas of Kenya, this now leaves Azimio la Umoja as the only remaining viable option for Kalonzo. Last month, the Wiper boss, alongside Oka principals Gideon Moi of KANU, Cyrus Jirongo of UDM, walked out from ANC's delegates meeting at Bomas of Kenya. After it was apparent that the DP was the chief guest. So there's that story that also Regina talked about, verification of voters at stake, as IBC says that they don't have 4.5 billion shillings to do that, and now they're asking Parliament to consider giving them that amount for the verification process. Very quickly into the sport, which something that we talked about here yesterday. Remember, we questioned a lesson that we can borrow from AFCON, more so Senegal. So now it's said that stakeholders want football fraternity to trust local coaches and AFCON lessons. So the story says that the football stakeholders actually have challenged appointing authorities to give local coaches a chance to handle local clubs and national teams to avoid the revolving door of foreign tactics. So they said that for 8 years, Cisse was the national coach. They never fired him. They never hired any foreign coach, but they actually nurtured local talent. And today, they're the African champions. Something that you should learn from Senegal. Doreen.
All right, let's begin with some politics and the president and the DP going at it at each other anytime they get a chance. The deputy president now says, I equally deserve credit for Jubilee's success, and he also appears to aim Babs at head of state following the latest Monday jibe about his deputy's dismissal performance in their tenure. And part of what the DP also said is that he asked his boss to tone down, that is the president, to retire honorably or go down when his project fails, adding that Kenyans are tired of a clique of individuals who think they own the country. And on the other side, when it comes to what the president also says about the DP is that he has been, the president has accused, or better still, Ruto has been widely captured addressing rallies from rooftop of his car, during which he accused Uhuru, again obviously, and Raila of political conmanship and staked credit of Jubilee government programs in the energy, transport and health sectors. And again, what the president now says to the DP is that he said that the DP had failed to heed his call to shelve early campaigns at the start of Jubilee administration's second term, and asked him to brace for real political battle and campaign period as the campaign period gathers momentum. And part of what, I mean, let me just say, a good number of Kenyans are asking is that what really happened to the relationship between the president and the DP from that time when they would wear matching shirts, matching ties, to a point where they can actually talk at each other anytime they get the chance. What really happened between these two? And away from that, National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi now drops resignation bombshell on ward reps ahead of polls, saying that also for them they need to resign if at all they plan to vie for any elective positions, just as what we saw yesterday. And this also comes at a time where we've seen especially members of the cabinet resigning yesterday as they are set to vie for these various elective positions, key among them being Charles Keter, the devolution CS, Munyes, Petroleum, and East African community counterpart Mohammed quit their lucrative jobs to join governor contest in their home counties, leading the way for dozens of senior public officers who also left to try their luck in politics. And this is why Justin Muturi is also telling ward reps, that is the MCs, for those wanting to also again vie for those particular positions, they need to resign by closure of business today. And again, picking from that particular story whereby the president unveiled the new cancer center in Mombasa, that is the Coast General Hospital. Remember that also this comes after early this year he also unveiled
a similar project that was at the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital. That was again also a cancer center. And part of also just what came out is that cancer is the third leading cause of deaths in Kenya, and this is after infectious and cardiovascular diseases. Now this is also part of what is informing what the state is doing to try and ensure they make health services easily accessible, especially to cancer centers. And again, remember, this is why every month every month is actually a cancer awareness month, and February just alone is one of those months that is set aside to sensitize and ensure that there's proper cancer awareness. And again, also it was mentioned that it is very important for Kenyans to also try and ensure they get to these facilities, perhaps for also cancer screening and early detection, because this will aid in early treatment and perhaps end up saving lives. And again, we talked about the story of the Teacher Service Commission unveiling the virtual learning platform, and part of what came out is how practical or even sustainable is this going to be, knowing fully well that we still have schools in the country whereby access to internet is still a tussle. And this is why TSC is in talks to connect rural school with fast internet ahead of this virtual learning. This is just part of what came out as an idea to try and bridge the gap when it comes to getting proper education. And again, also what informed this new idea is due to the effects of COVID-19, a time when students and children were at home. So this is also what informed the introduction of this virtual learning platform. And again, remember, even as they talked about this, they didn't put a specific time and date as to when this was set to begin, but that is why they are trying to ensure they look at those loopholes and try to tie them before this project begins. And also we talked about the issue of food security in the country, and it's just a continuing to build up on how it has affected different countries, not just Kenya. And this article just highlights how countries of Ethiopia, Somalia also form part of the 13 million people that have been affected when it comes to hunger in Africa. And also, again, this has been attributed to the lack of proper rains as it was expected, especially in the months of October, November, and December. And coming to Kenya alone, we have seen the state coming up with various measures, what we call the short, mid, and even long time, to try and see how best they could curb the issue of food insecurity as a whole. Part of what informed their short and mid-term include the cash transfers, and long-term is the water tracking system. So when we get to the details, I'll be telling you also how this entire issue when it comes to hunger crisis is not only just affecting Kenyans, but the entire, not the entire African, but some countries in the African continent, and how various stakeholders are just coming in to see how best they can be able to assist people in these countries. And lastly, Egerton suspends 14 dons as strike enters third month. We also looked at this particular story sometime last week, whereby this strike enters its third month from December, and most of the issues that good number of these lecturers were decrying included non-payment, lack of proper promotions, and as well as salary increment. So now the university has gone ahead to suspend this 14 lecturers, and again, one of them is just saying that why has it taken 3 months for them to realize that this strike was illegal? Because again, one of the reasons why they ended up suspending them is because they say that this strike was illegal. So that is what is happening in Eldoret Egerton University as it pertains to that lecturer strike. And in a nutshell, that is how the front page of the People's Daily looks like this morning. Ray.
Quick sneak peek into the Standard this morning. Tyranny of numbers, the question of, the vote-rich counties. The top 10 among them is Nairobi at 2.5 million, Kiambu 1.3, Nakuru 1.05, Kakamega 846,000, while Meru comes in at 786,000, Machakos at 692,000, Mombasa 662,000, Bungoma 646,000, Kisii 642,000, and Murang'a 631. Remember, the registration is still underway in the 290 constituencies at the Huduma centers, so these numbers will keep on refreshing. But now those are the top 10 vote-rich counties. And looking at the Mount Kenya question here, and it is a question that political pundits, analysts, and even those who are in the race, especially for the top seat, that's the presidency, are seemingly is seemingly weighing on them, and that is the question that who inherits Uhuru's votes, so to speak. And that's the question about who will capture the elusive Mount Kenya votes, where, a third of the voters live. So the region boasts of 5.85 million registered voters, and in 2013 and 2017, they gave Uhuru more than 90% of the votes. Now, the question is, with this seemingly fallout, actually it's not a seemingly fallout, but we have seen it's bare knuckle between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy president there, William Ruto. So with that fallout, there's a lot of uncertainty over who will inherit the vote block. This comes at a time when Raila is still wooing this particular region. So the question of Mount Kenya is all about numbers. I have just listed the 10 vote-rich counties, where Nairobi happens to be one of them. Actually top, they're at 2.5 million plus voters. So far, we have 21.7 million registered voters. The exercise will still continue at a time when IEBC is saying for verification to actually happen, government needs to allocate it an extra 4.5 lest the elections might not be as transparent, or rather the process will not be as seamless as anticipated. Talking about polls, the August 9 polls, now it is now clear that public officers have to vacate office. Today is the last day, and this was made clear by a court ruling yesterday, and you can get further details on our website. So there was a bit of uncertainty as to what the law says and its implementation now, following a court judgment and verdict actually that was delivered yesterday, and it reads that the Court of Appeal has confirmed the exit of public officers seeking elective seats, and the deadline is August 9th, which happens to be today, exactly 6 months to the general election. And following that, we have seen mass exits begin. So far, 3 cabinet secretaries, 5 CSs, and a host of other state officers have quit to seek elective seats. Remember, further details are still available on our website. Now, we have the quest, or rather the government has been pushing 4 agendas under the Big 4 agenda, and one of them happens to be health. So we have been seeing the president in Mombasa there, and the questions that most Kenyans are asking, so what is contained in the Universal Health Pack? Well, details are available in this particular daily. Those who wish can find out, but this is a move that is expected to bring, or rather lower, the cost of medical services in both public hospitals as well as the private. Remember, there's a deal that the government has entered into with private hospitals to ensure that each and every Kenyan can afford to seek medical services. As we bring this to a close, I'd want to draw your attention to a documentary that is airing and has taken the globe, not just Kenya by storm, but the globe by storm. I'm talking about the 2-hour documentary, The Tinder Swindler, that is currently airing on Netflix. So much has been said, and whenever you hear matters of, or rather when this documentary is mentioned in some circles, Kenyans on Twitter have come out and said that this would not have actually come to pass in the current situation, especially with Nairobi girls or women, so to speak. I don't know what you have to say in that, but whenever I hear about the Tinder Swindler docu, I remember that we are living at a time where mental health is very key, and narcissists have gone a notch higher to ensure that they continue taking advantage of vulnerables. So please, guard your space, guard your mental health. Remember, character development is very much real. I'm Regina Manyara. I live in the able hands of my colleagues in the team. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Enjoy your viewing.
nimekuja hapa nataka kuhudumiwa na niuliza habari ya kumaliza. Kumaliza nini? Piga nyote marufuku katika hii nyumba.
Watakaje? Wewe wajua ninavyotaka.
Sijui nilimpendea nini yule mwanamke.
Haja yake ni kuniadhirisha tu. Nikutane na Lea.
Wamuita nani paka? Wewe hapo.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
And thank goodness I'm not as rude as you. And I'm not worthless either, you hear me?
I need to cling on to somebody else, so I will not feel so obsessed with her.
It's about that night when your mother died. She was going to leave your father for someone else. His name was Leonardo Del Rio.
You've got to be kidding, Florencia. You can't solve your problems this way. Your father's upset and I can't blame him.
If I ever find out that you laid a hand on Julio or his mother, I will smash your face myself and kick you out of here. Do I make myself clear?
Must have found out that she was leaving him. And there is a chance it was Demian who killed my daughter.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Sauti ya Kenya.
Juu milimani na hata mabondeni, Radio Taifa inatamba kutamba. Sasa unaweza kupokea matangazo ya Radio Taifa loud and clear popote ulipo Western Kenya.
Radio Taifa usisahau unaweza ukatupata kupitia
ukiwa Busia, Siaya, Vihiga, Mumias, Yala na maeneo yaliyoko karibu. Radio Taifa inapatikana kwenye 104.5 FM, na ukiwa Bungoma, Kakamega, Kiminini, Kipkaren na viunga vyake, pata vipindi na burudani safi kupitia 92.3 FM. Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya. Juhudi za Rais Uhuru Kenyatta za kustawisha viwanda nchini zimechangia pakubwa katika kuunda nafasi zaidi za kazi na kukuza uchumi wa taifa hili. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
we have made a deliberate decision to prioritize the development of micro, small and medium enterprises as part of our Big Four agenda.
We've also seen under the regime of President Kenyatta some favorable legislations that are now put in place. The environment for manufacturing is now becoming more conducive to investors.
Kuna mashini zingine ziko pale zimekuja, mashini ambayo ni modern, sio kama zile za zamani tulikuwa tunatumia. Yenyewe kusema ukweli, kazi Uhuru tumeona akiwa ametufanyia kazi poa.
How do you know it was me? It could be my twin or my sister. You know, Indians, we all look the same.
Amana, Pana. No, don't put things in my mouth, Pana.
Nani anasema assistant husband?
Badala nguse umama na akalie. Ashindwe kuamuka
hata mimi iko kuja tandika wewe hapo. Nani iko tandika mimi ha? Mimi hapa niko blanketi wewe kasema tandika.
Uwezi lalia, uwezi nikalia kichwa hapa.
Hata hapo mtu wako slide iko kama egg, hapa niko hata nywele. Hii mdomo yako uwezi funga kidogo. Siko pilipili.
Pilipili inawasha. Kwa hivyo uwezi nyamaza.
Hapana, iko
to Kenya, my guy, and most importantly to this school.
Thank you, bro. Yo, what up, Africa? What it do, what it does, what it done, what it did. It's your boy. Super producers.
Can we get on with the lesson, please?
My name is Jules with a Z, but you can call me Juju.
Wacha upumbavu. Julia, you are Julia. In fact, Mr. Man, call her Julia.
Solendan, Mashambiki.
I mean, they got the voice, but look at her. She got the looks, bruh. And the video is all about visuals, bruh. Visuals.
This is still Good Morning Kenya. If you're just joining us, you're right in time for our fast conversation this Wednesday morning. Our focus centered on women in leadership. My guest this morning is Dr. Medina Twalib. She was a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, but she had to resign yesterday, obviously, because she is vying for the position of women representative in Tana River County. Daktari, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Good enough. Before I get to the nitty-gritties of the politics bit of it, let's start from your story. You grew up in Tana River. You are a Pokomo.
Yeah.
Grew up as an orphan. How was life growing up? Because you really amassed a lot, even when it comes to education.
Wow, what a way to start this one. So, grew up, born and brought up in Tana River. There is a place, it is now the headquarters of Tana River, called Hola. But then the specific place is Laza. So I was born in Hola, Laza. Went to school, my elementary school, primary, all the way to standard 8. Then after that, I was one of the best students in Tana River, Kenya Certificate of Primary Education.
Yeah.
And I was called in one of the best schools in Kenya, Moi Girls High School, Eldoret. It was fantastic. That was a good feeling. That was a moment I could never, ever forget. In fact, that was the first year I actually saw my name on a newspaper. It was great. And then after that, everything fell into place, went to the university all the way to doctorate level. Yeah.
Speaking of that being a good moment for you, in 2017 you got your doctorate degree, and I was reading through an article and you said that in that moment when the VC was handing you that doctorate degree, the PhD, obviously again being the first woman in Pokomo to attain such high level of education, you cried. What was the general feeling in that moment?
Oh, sometimes it can be a crybaby, but then now that one, those were tears of joy. It was fantastic. I couldn't explain. Do you know, first of all, going through the entire doctorate degree, I had no idea that probably I would be the first woman to get a PhD. That time it was Pokomo. But then as time kept going by, I'm realizing it's not just Pokomo. I think it's Tana River.
So the entire county.
Say that, yeah. Because I've been looking for, then who before that, and I don't seem to get any. So as days go by, I'm getting comfortable to say that I'm the first doctorate holder to get a PhD from Tana River County. And Tana River is not just Pokomos.
Yeah.
We got Wardeis, Ormas, we got so many other communities living together. However, then reaching there was not easy. It was not easy because immediately I started school, my dad got an accident.
Yeah.
He was the breadwinner. My mom is a housewife, and he got an accident and was bedridden for almost 4 years. So imagine from nursery school all the way to standard 4. 4 years of not seeing your dad, not being able to talk to him.
Where were you at this point?
Still in Tana River. So we were staying in, let me call it town, some sort of an urban place in Tana River. But then, you know, at some point we couldn't afford. And so my siblings and I were taken deep inside, now to the rural area where my dad was born. It's a place called Wachakone. So we went in there, and surviving was difficult. Such a difficult thing, because that time my dad was not in Tana River, was in Nairobi getting treatment. At some point he couldn't take it anymore, so he said he needed to be brought back to Tana River. Probably he was prepared to meet his maker, I think. So he said, I need to go back. And in around 1993, he came back home, and I was in school, I remember, leaving school at around 4:30 in the evening. Where I used to go to school was around 4 kilometers to where I stayed, and it's quite a distance. And I meet this person on the streets, and he tells me, your dad is here. So you can imagine the feeling, my dad. You know, my memory is, before he got the accident, I know this person who is cheerful, and he would come and we would play together. So I ran home only to see many people, and I'm like, where's my dad? I gotta see him. And I went there, and he was seated on a wheelchair, helpless.
All this time you didn't know what was happening to him.
It was crazy. I had no idea. I'm thinking, really? I mean, ow. You know, he was paralyzed. So from waistline down, because he had spinal injury, so you can imagine. And he's there looking helpless. And for a moment, I got down, like really down. And it was not easy until he stayed there for like a year or so, and then he passed away. And so all the hopes were gone. Like, okay, so how on earth are we supposed to survive with a mom who is not working? It was just hopeless. To me, there was really no future, Percy. Like, we'll just survive. So going to school and back, and you don't have shoes, you don't have uniforms, they're all torn. But then you don't have the guts to actually ask mom, I need new uniform, because you can see how she's struggling.
She's not working.
It was crazy.
But that's when life took a turn, and you survived on well wishes up until you've gotten to the point where you are.
I'm really glad, because then after, now fast forward KCPE, I got, that time we used, I don't know if I should call it a bursary, but Tana River, that time it was a district, would actually pay school fees for a best student. And that's where then they paid for my school fees in Moi Girls, and I worked hard, finished, got enrolled in Kenyatta University to do a Bachelor of Science. Again, I got some sponsors who came in, other than higher education loans, but that board is doing a fantastic job. So, because we survived on that one. So other than me just being paid for school fees, I would get some little cash for my little brother. So my brother, I would sustain myself, and I would sustain other people as well. And I know many people know the story of help money. It is nice, but then you have to pay it back. And I finished after that. As I was continuing with the undergraduate program, I got some friends from the United States, Courtney and Jeffrey, and they were sort of inspired by my story. So by the time I graduated, they had already offered through their foundation to pay for my master's degree. So immediately I finished school. I didn't do much. I just went back and did my master's MBA. And at least that is the stage where I didn't struggle much, because then it was a full scholarship and they would pay for everything, even buy me clothes. And that's where the story started. After that, then I enrolled for a PhD. That's where, in fact, when I was doing my master's degree, I met my mentor that time, Professor Peter Kobonyo. He still is. He's such an amazing guy. He told me, Medina, I think you are not supposed to remain at master's level. Immediately after this, you need to do something and try do your PhD. That time it was it was not in my head, like, what? People do that? So I'm supposed to like do PhD? Is it even doable? He kept on and keeping on, and by the time I finished my master's, I got Gandhi Smarak, I got a scholarship. And even my PhD, I didn't really struggle because, again, it was a full scholarship. So my life has been scholarship after scholarship after scholarship. And I think that is the hand of God. It is amazing how God can lift you from nowhere to somewhere. I believe in him.
So we can safely say that Medina Twalib is actually a full person of God's favor.
You can see that.
We can see that. All right, looking at these challenges that you faced growing up, and we obviously know that even from the place that you come from, Tana River County, there's still a lot of issues, especially when it comes to child marriages, lack of proper access to education, lack of education thereof. When you look at these issues, is it part of what informed you to vie for this elective position?
Oh, yeah. I would comfortably say yes, because then I'm imagining. Now, if I tell you the people that we went to Standard 1, let me just from there, then let me start with a girl child. Standard 1, by the time we are in class 8, I can't even remember where people kept getting out. Right now, it is a handful of people that I've started with from primary to high school to finishing school that are not grandmothers. Like grandmothers, they got married, they got children, their children have children, and there's a lot of early marriages, and I won't blame the people per se. I think it's because of, I would say, lack of, let me say, literacy level, poverty levels, lack of understanding what is happening in the outside world. And therefore, one of my passion I want to do probably for the people of Tana River is because I've gone through all this and I'm able to be called a daktari today. I want a child outside there in Tana River to look at me and say, I can do it. If she did it, no one should not be able to do that. And I want to be an inspiration. Good thing is I've gone through all the challenges. I know how to tackle them. And therefore I can comfortably guide a young girl out there. This is what you're supposed to do for you to at least reach to that level that you want to be when you grow up. So it's part of my inspiration.
All right. So speaking of you being an inspiration to the young people, and more so even young girls, given the kind of issues you went through, this is not the first time you're vying for an elective position. In 2013, you did the same, vied for a governor's position as a deputy governor, but you and your colleague missed that spot. So what are some of those lessons that you learned that perhaps you're applying it when it comes to this year's general elections?
Oh yeah, I did. We vied. Unfortunately, the person I was deputizing is no more. He's going to be with the Lord. May his soul rest in peace. I got a lot of lessons. Number one, Tana River is vast. That place is huge. I think it's around almost 36,000 kilometers square. It's a huge place. But the problem with Tana River, again, it is more like its population is sparse. So it's a huge county. You'll find people living here, and then there's a huge space where there's not really anything going on. And then deep inside, there are some people living.
There's activities.
You got to go there. So in the end, you find yourself moving the entire county. It is vast. The population is not that big, around 300,000 people. But then you have to move through the entire county. The road networks, I won't say it's one of the best, honestly, but then you have to struggle. Those are lessons I already went through before, and therefore now I'm finding it a little bit better in terms of now moving around the county and also meeting different people, because in Tana River it's we got Pokomos, we got Ormas, Wardays, so talking to the different kind of people, again that one gave me a very good exposure at that time that now I'm using it and I'm finding it a little better than before. Yeah.
So would we say that these are some of the campaign strategies that you've employed?
Oh no, I hope my competitors are not listening to this one, because then,
but
then they better
people are
not take
watching and are listening to you.
Yeah, this one I'm planning to use that as one of my campaign strategies, because then already I know people. And many people, when they heard that I'm going for the position of a women representative Tana River, in fact, they're the ones who reached out to me. And not to say, just for lack of a better word, Tana River mostly, other than the democratic right of everyone being allowed to vie for any position in Kenya, we have some sort of, can I call it clanism sort of politics? And therefore the elders will call you and they will interview you to get to see if you're fit for the position. And these positions keep moving. So Tana River has 3 counties. We got Tana North, there is Tana Central where I come from, and there is Tana South. So say for example the position of women representative, initially it was in Tana North. So people from Tana North had the mandate to produce someone. So one person, and therefore they would be vetted out by the elders. We have elders called Wazee wa Gasa. They would vet you out, and then they would determine whether you are fit for the position or not. Once you're fit, then they will tell the people. And everyone now knows we are voting for this person. So it was in Tana North, and now it has come to Tana Central. Initially, I didn't know about that. I just said I have to vie because it's my right to do that as a Kenyan. But then when I went there, coincidentally, it is the town where where I come from. And the elders called me and I was interviewed, and I'm telling you, the interview is just something else, especially for women. It's not right. We undergo a lot more than our counterparts men. But then right now, from my sub-tribe, they have given me the mantra and their blessings, and there was a huge celebration. I wish I could carry some video for you.
Let's talk a bit about that. Yes, you've mentioned the clanism that is in Tana River County, and that is not just in that specific county. I mean, just as you're saying, there was celebration, so that means that the elders give you their blessings in a colorful event. And we also saw that sometime last year, whereby the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi underwent the same colorful event whereby he was being coronated by Meru Council of Elders. Is it a thing when it comes to politics, and what is the importance of that?
I think it's very important, and just like you said, it's not just let me say Pokomos, or it's more of our culture.
It's African.
We do that.
More like politics of endorsement.
We really believe in that. we do, and then the good thing about it is that many people who have been blessed by the elders, especially from where I come from, you go through. It becomes quite easy and people accept you quite easily. And in addition to that, this time Tana River people have been, I would say, been given one of their best, and they know that, because then...
Which is you.
You know? Because then they know it's not just about this one comes from a particular clan. They would look at my credentials and the kind of agenda I'm selling out there based on my experience and my interaction with people. Then they know this time I have a slogan. I usually say Tana must rise. It is time. It is time.
It is time.
We're only waiting for August.
As we're talking about waiting for August, you're still shopping for a political party. You're still not allied to any of that. But even looking at what that event did to you, as you're explaining, one of those important, beneficial kind of events, especially for us as an African continent, does it make you confident enough that this year something is going to be different, knowing fully well that you also tried an elective position in 2013 to no avail?
This time is going to be very different. Like I said, 2013, I was a deputy to someone, and therefore all these activities and blessings were done to him. Me, I was just being carried through. So I didn't really go through all these, can I call them initiations per se? I didn't go through that. But this time I am on my own. As a women rep, I'm not deputizing anyone. I'm on my own. And therefore I had to go through all these activities. And that one actually gives me confidence that come the day of election, I will get it. Of course, there are other candidates in the same position who you're going there that I have a right as a Kenyan to vie for this position. So it doesn't matter whether the elders say yes or no, I will still go for it. However, everyone knows that if you go there without the blessings of the elders, you're going there at your own risk. And it has never happened before. So it is very good to have competitors. I'm glad, because then they keep you on your toes. But at the back of your mind, you know for sure you're getting this one. But there are challenges, of course.
There are challenges. And these challenges is what we will come to talk about after this break. Because again, also there's that question of this specific demographic, youth, women, elderly, PWDs. There's the question of the 2/3 gender rule. There's the question of how easy or how difficult is it for women to get in this elective positions. Time for that quick breather. When we return, we'll talk about all this and so much more. Stay with us. Whoa, the break was that short, and we are back still on set with my guest, Dr. Medina Twalib, aspirant women representative, Tana River County, and she's talking to us about her journey as well as part of what informed her to get into this position. Dr. Ari, before we went on that short break, I just wanted us to talk about the youth, women, and elderly. When you look at most campaigns and most of what leaders would keep talking about is, I want to do this for the youth, I want to do this for the women, I want to do this for the elderly. And yes, you're vying for women representative positions, so it only makes sense that you talk about agendas targeting the women. But what is so peculiar about this demographic, the youth, women, and elderly?
So Tana River, I would say the majority, in terms of demographics, the majority are youths. Unfortunately, again, majority of our youth in Tana River, due to many challenges that we've been facing, let me call them historical challenges, majority of our youths really have not gotten a very good access to education, and therefore someone would go up to, say, high school level, and it will stop there. So this is a group where it forms the majority of the people in Tana River. It is the youths. Number two, after the youths, are the women. And historically, it has been that, and it's not just women in Tana River, I would say it's women globally much, that we have been sort of having historical injustices, because growing up as Africans, seriously, a woman would be told to stay home as their male counterparts would be going to school. That one is typical in Tana River. If you have, say, 3 children, two of them are ladies and a boy, 2 girls and a boy, and the parent is forced to choose who to take to school, they will take the boy child to school. And the ladies, the women or the girls will be told to. So historically, women have really had not very much opportunities. However, we are now trying to catch up. And I'm glad that the government has heard so many funds, including Women Economic Fund, there's the Uwezo Fund, and now there's even this other fund called NGAF, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. Even that one has really come out. And most of the time, I would say in Tana River, basically, the beneficiaries of NGAF as a fund have been women. The only problem that we have in Tana River right now is you give someone some money and they would go and they don't know what to do with it. And therefore, in terms of starting businesses, we really don't have majority of the women starting businesses that are sustainable. So they would do the businesses, and then 2-3 months down the line, they are back looking for more funding. And therefore, what I'm trying to do right now, and what I will offer them, is using my expertise. Like I said, I've done Master of Business Administration, and my PhD is also in business. I have been trying to look for women and trying to teach them how to do sustainable businesses. And this is one of my agenda, and I've talked to my people very well. I will be more focusing on the women and the youths, because if we look at the youths now, they're the ones who eventually then will take Tana River to the heights that we want. We should not forget the elders, because then remember, if we don't have them, who will be giving us those blessings that we did?
And you got some.
I'm telling you, I'm a beneficiary of that.
Of those
but the good thing about the elders now, there's a fund that is given to over 70 years old people. I think around 2,000 shillings per month to sustain them. I'm not sure if they get in Tana River, if they get access to that funding, because majority of the elders that I've talked to, they have no idea if such a fund exists. And therefore, I want to put it upon me to try looking for those funds so that our elders can live a comfortable life. I'm telling you, if you see a 50-year-old person from Tana River looks like a 70-year-old guy from Nairobi, because of the challenges that we go through, and poverty level is quite high in Tana River. So those are the things I'm trying to see how then we can help both the young, the old, and the women, specifically the women. That's my target.
I mean, that's the position you're running for anyway, so it makes sense to look for ways in which you can help women in that county and perhaps even beyond. All right, let's come to the youth a bit. And yes, you've mentioned some of the things you're planning to do for them, especially when it comes to that business aspect of it that you've talked about, whereby they would get money and not know what to do with it. So clearly there's a lot that is happening when it comes to lack of proper empowerment of the young people. And you also mentioned the fact that youth form a majority. And going by the latest report by IEBC is that out of the 3.5 million registered youths in this first and second, actually out of the 3.5 million youths, they couldn't even reach a half of that when it came to voter listing and registration. At least now they've extended it further a bit, whereby they're going to do voter listing in Huduma centers, because again, during the first and the second phase, they didn't meet their target. In your capacity, perhaps as a leader, because I would call you one, what are you doing when it comes to sensitization of these young people when it comes to voter registration?
We have been, I would say we've been working so hard, because number one, we keep telling our people, especially the youths, if you don't take charge of your life now, by the time you are getting older, you would be living in a place you do not want to see.
But the youths are tired.
I know, but then how? You're tired of living? It's your life. You got to do something. The good thing about them, I keep telling them my story. Look at me at a very young age. If I was to give up then and say I'm tired, there's really not much, probably I would not be sitting here with you today. And therefore, what we are trying to teach the youth right now is be resilient. Keep on keeping on, and that good day will come someday. And as it is now, we have been trying to show them that things aren't all that bad as they used to be before. For example, if I am to quote one of the places in Tana River, somewhere in Kipini, you know, by the way, Tana River has both the river, it's the longest river in Kenya, the River Tana, and we also have access to the ocean. It's a big shore coastline, around 72 kilometers. If you go there somewhere in Kipini, do you know, you go there in the evening and there's that wind flowing and there's titanium all over. And I'm telling the youth, this one is just flowing. The wind is just blowing it and it's going. And I mean, we can do something with titanium. It has helped the world. So if only the youth can come together, try to see what gem or game we have in Tana River, combined together, we will not be thinking about any other things but development. And we only need the right policies in place. We need the right laws and regulation, but most importantly, we need the right leaders to be able to implement that. Because if a leader doesn't know what to do, then everyone will not know what to do. Like that titanium idea, I'm telling you, I just saw it and I'm thinking, this one can take Turner to the next level. Yet no one is actually looking at it that way. Again, many of our youths, like I told you earlier, they really are not into, they didn't do PhDs or degrees or something. So I keep asking the people, then what do we do with them? Do we throw them into the river? We cannot. We got to deal with that. Good thing about Tana River, and I know that for sure because I've lived there, is that our young men and women have got talent. Do you know that River Tana actually flows with a very high speed, but then you'll see a young man swimming across the flowing water? And I keep telling them, if you look at the Olympics, people swim in a swimming pool. The water is not even moving.
And you're swimming in a river.
I tell you, look at that. That's pure talent. If we can get 2 or 3 people from Tana River who are swimmers, Olympics, those guys will forget about winning. The Akina Phelps. Oh no, they will forget about it. We have talent. We do. They just need to be tapped and exposed to the world. And we're going to do great.
Dr. Let me pick your mind on this, because I say the youths are tired. You say that they should not give up, going by your story, and not just in Tana River County, but across the country. We have that case of voter apathy. What do you think is the leading cause of that? Because again, we heavily rely on them when it comes to voting. But even again, the IEBC came out to say yesterday on their report is that for those that are vying for elective positions, and then they need to look for various other alternative ways or persons that they're going to get their votes from, and not necessarily the youth, as it were.
Wow, now when you come here, when you talk about voter, let me just give you a little bit of, can I call it a story? So I've been campaigning a little, and I've been talking to people, and I've been, you know, you pull a group of youths and you want to talk to them, and you tell them, say if it's morning, good morning, my name is Dr. Medina, and now I'm vying for the position of, they will stop you there. Now, don't continue, and you're like, okay, so let me just listen, and they will tell you, we actually didn't hear. And now you think, let me just speak a little louder. My name is Akra. No, we can't hear. Our ears are covered. We cannot hear you. They're not telling you directly, but then, in other words, you got to give something to open their ears. In Tana River, we call that bare. So you have to give them something for them to even give you the audience of saying what you're vying for.
And what you want to say.
And that is the entire system, the entire time. You go anywhere, you call people, they will sit down, and immediately after you say your name, then they say, we can't hear you, we really can't. You need to open our ears. And that opening ears is a chunk of cash you got to part with. I'm imagining in Tana River right now, we got 1,139 villages. They call them clusters. So in each and every cluster, you sit down talking to people, you got to pay this kind of a thing. By the time they elect you, you have paid all that bare for the 1,139 villages, assuming by the time you're getting elected and you're getting your first, you're already broke. You have no idea. You don't even think of what do I do to develop my people. You're thinking, what do I do to get myself out of debt
and recover the money I used in election campaigns.
So if you see these politicians doing their thing sometimes.
But is it a question of bad leadership or youths just not being properly sensitized and empowered?
I think it's both.
It's both bad leadership.
We have experienced poor leadership because there are some leaders who, because this thing must have started somewhere. It must have started somewhere, and I think it is the same leaders who started this habit. And now it has gotten to people that you got to pay this thing before we listen.
You've got to give me something.
You know.
The moment I hear you're vying for this position.
And they're not even making it any better for us. So for those who we're just getting into politics, it is really a problem. It's a big problem because then if you've been a public officer, for example, you understand the kind of salaries people get. You have this little savings, but then you really cannot campaign because then someone is waiting for you to give them something to even give you an ear or listen. And it's crazy out there, I'm telling you.
And then when you don't give, this word justifies and now say the youths are tired.
I know. You don't give. You mean you don't? You gotta give.
If at all you have to be listened to.
You gotta
So it's
give.
a question of poor and bad leadership.
It is a poor, very bad leadership. And this
what are you doing in your position to change that? Because I mean, I don't want us to talk about it so much because it actually looks like a continuing kind of trend. In fact, someone said this year, that this is the year whereby the only thing you buy ni trouser, kofia na t-shirt utapatiwa kwa barabara ukitembea, as well as some cash. It's like it's become a thing so much so that anytime it's during the election period in year, people just don't feel like they need to work because they're going to be getting some of this things.
It's true.
So what needs to be, or what are you doing in your capacity to change that?
Okay, so the good thing about, again, I would go back to Tana River. The good thing about, you remember I told you about clan?
Yes.
And that culture, the tradition. So once the elders say it is this person, whether you go and they tell you we don't hear, they may not hear you, but they must hear the voice of the elders. And therefore, even if you don't tell them anything, then the elders have said it is Dr. Medina. And therefore, as you give them those handouts or anything, you automatically know that they already know your name. However, on the flip side now, if you are vying because it is your right to do that, and the elders have not endorsed you, then you're in trouble because then you have to spend a lot of money to give them, for them to listen to you. Some of them, in the aspect of giving them these handouts and all that, some of them get convinced actually. They get convinced and they change their mind from voting the person that has been chosen by the elders to you.
That
but
get
then,
the handouts.
Yeah, but then it's something else. And then that one is also contributed by the poverty levels. Someone says, at least this one has given me food to eat, but then that food to eat is for today. How about tomorrow?
And the day after tomorrow.
And the day after. We better sacrifice now and suffer now for a better tomorrow. And that has been my slogan all through. Let us be a bit resilient now, but we know for sure our future is
bright.
Set. Yes.
And this is why we keep talking about empowerment, because when you are empowered, these handouts, you don't even think about them. They do not mean perhaps to say anything to you because you know what is right, and so you're choosing a leader based on what they will do for you as a young person, as a Kenyan, as opposed to what they are giving you. All right, let's talk about the issue of food security. I mean, it has been an ongoing conversation, not just in Kenya, also some countries in the African continents, the like of Ethiopia, Somalia. In the country, we've seen the state try to bring up some short, mid and long-term efforts to try and see how best they can curb the issue of food security. There's been cash transfers here and there. There's been the question of trying to see how best Kenyans, especially in the affected areas, can do water trapping. And Tana River is one of those counties that grapples a lot with food insecurity amongst other counties such as Turkana, Mandera, Marsabit, and the likes. From what you've been doing, especially going around that area, what really is the challenge and what can be done? Because again, we can talk about cash transfer on end, but the sustainability of it is the question.
It's true. And just picking up from where you have stopped is I think a month or two before now, you would go through around Tana River. You know, Tana River, we got farmers in pastoralists. You would go around Tana River and the sight of the animals who are dead on the highway is just crazy. First of all, I think it goes all the way to the world climatic change. That is one. However, now that we know there is this wild climatic change, the question is, what are our leaders doing about it? The advantage that Tana River as a county has, see, we have, like I told you, is it the longest or the biggest river, in Kenya? Instead of taking advantage of that, because we have water there already, so a time like this where it is not that dry, there's a lot that can be done to try and tap that water so that when the dry season comes, we are set. Things like if we can adopt modern agricultural techniques, and I was lucky to have a talk with Moroccan ambassador and his friends, and he was talking about trying to come up with technological ways of doing farming, so that it doesn't matter the season or the weather. Things like greenhouses, those are things that can be done in Tana River to try and curb the food security problem. That has been there all along. And again, like I told you, we have a problem in terms of leadership, because a leader ought to look at that so that it does not repeat. But in Tana River, it's year after year after year. You see people dying because of hunger at this age and time, someone dying because they don't have food. Majority of people in Tana River, you look at them, they're actually malnourished. We got a river there. How does this happen? Why can't a leader just wake up and say, this is enough, we gotta do something? I am trying. One of those things that really made me go there is because we need to change the narrative. We need to change the story of Tana River as a county in terms of trying to introduce this greenhouses thing, trying to find ways of storing this water when we have sufficient, so that when the dry season comes, we already have something that can keep us going over and over. These are goes both for the pastoralists and the farmers. Because you look at us, for example, Tana River right now, 80% of the land in Tana River is non-arable. It is only around 15 to 20% land that can be used for farming per se. So the question is, do we look at this 80% non-arable land as a burden to Tana River? We cannot look at it that way. We need to change the narrative and see what can be done with this 80%, because that's what we have. What are you going to do about it? That's the biggest question.
That is the biggest question. And this is why you've talked about the technology and trying to see how best that could be introduced, at least to curb the issue of food security in that particular county. All right, we can talk about the challenges on end of what is facing Tana River County as a whole, or what you went through even just as an individual. But again, we cannot shy away from talking about the challenges that face especially women in leadership, and specifically vying for elective positions. When you look at the figures or the statistics, in 2013, there was about 145 of them. The number obviously, of course, improved in 2017 with about 172 women who vied for elective position. But still, much as we are making those gains, there's still some challenges that face women when they're vying for these positions. What has been your story?
Challenges are there. For women, challenges are there. Let me just start by saying that, first of all, like I said earlier, see, if I am vying for a particular position as a woman and I have a counterpart male who's vying for the same position, and I will always take you back to Tana River, and this is what happened.
This is your county of focus.
I'm telling you, the first question you as a woman that you will be asked is, are you married?
Oh, it's a thing.
You have to. So before, in fact, my story is that before I even went, so my people said, you need to sit down for an interview. And the first question was, they said this question has two parts. So there's part A, which will determine your if we will ask part B or not. And the part A was, are you married? Okay, assuming the answer is yes, is your husband from Tana River? Because then these people are telling you, if you got married to someone outside Tana River, it's a mentality that has been created there. If you're married to someone outside Tana River, then you're going to get our wealth out there. We will never benefit out of it. And
you've seen that in Homa Bay as well.
It's crazy. And you're thinking, will the government then take the money into my account or what? I mean, that is a big challenge. It does not happen to the male counterpart. If a man is vying for a position, he will never be asked, have you married outside Tana River? They don't ask that. And that has been a tradition, and it's a big challenge, because then it sort of cuts out the generation, the people who probably they're not married for many reasons. Because probably they're not yet ready to get married, because probably they're widowed, because their love is not in Tana River, it is out there. No, you cannot. No, don't you dare. No, that one can't happen in Tana River. That's a big challenge first. Second, every time, and this one I think happens in many of our rural areas, that as a woman is looked at, your place is in the kitchen. Do you understand? And therefore, every time you go out there to seek a political position, the society looks at you like, amepotea huyo. This is not the norm.
You're living your role.
How? And you're supposed to be in the kitchen. And therefore, you go out there and express yourself. People look at you as if there's something really wrong with you. You are not following the norm of the society. And that one we have experienced. I personally have experienced it in 2013. And even now, as you keep going out there, people keep asking, how? You're not supposed to be out there running around.
Why are you leaving your husband and your children?
In the morning, you leave your bed and did you make breakfast? And that time you have a meeting at 7:30 with the same constituencies. If you don't show up, we will not vote for you. Yet they will ask you, did you make breakfast for your husband? And so we are not running away from our duties as women, because I know as women we can multitask and we can do those things. But we are asking the society to give us an opportunity to recover the history that has been made wrongly earlier, and make the playing ground as flat and as equal as possible. Because women can. I was in this conference, I think, was it last month? It was organized by FIDA. It was called Vota Dada. And I managed to meet many women aspirants from all over the country. Some from Kambani, others from Kisumu, Wajir, Mandera. And we were sharing experiences about what we had been through as of that time. And the stories you hear out there is, they're sad stories for women. And we struggle. And in the end, and I've seen this in Parliament, if a bill is brought in Parliament, because I've been following quite closely about a woman or women in general, that's the day we will have the least quorum. Many of the time, the bill won't even pass. So
if it's introduced by a woman.
Yeah, true. And I'm thinking we need both women and men to work together to create a better environment for all of us. The world is big. We can fit all of us.
Better, conducive and level environment. Now, the director says that we are out of time, but honestly, we can't go without giving you a chance to speak to Kenyans in Tana River County. That is your camera. Very briefly, what would you say to Kenyans in that particular county?
Okay. So this is my opportunity. Tana River people, if you're watching, this is the time for, I keep saying, Tana must rise. Take me as your women representative and experience good leadership.
Well said. Short, brief, short and sweet.
I'm a man of few words, woman.
You're one of few words. All right, thank you so much, Daktari, for your time. That has been quite informative, at least also just letting us into some of the issues that particular county faces and what the leadership can do to avert and change that.
Thank you very much as well.
All right, I have been speaking to Dr. Medina Twalib, former lecturer at University of Nairobi, as well as women representative aspirant in Tana River County. This is where we bring this conversation to a close, but we are not yet done. We have Rashid Mwamkondo joining us on the other side from radio, where he is set to speak to our very own who resigned yesterday. That is Boni Musambi, vying for a parliamentary position in Kitui. Rashid, over to you.
Imenifanya vile nilivyo. KBC ilinikubali nikiwa very green. kutoka college. Sikujua kitu.
Ulikuja kama moja mwembamba.
Sikujua chochote. Alafu ina replace mtu ambaye alikuwa anajua kila kitu na mtu ambaye hakuwa anajua anything. Sasa mimi sikujua kitu na wakanipa nafasi. KBC imenipa freedom. Mimi ndiye nilianza kipindi cha Zinga from zero. Kutoka jina hadi content, kila kitu wakaniamini. Wamenipa nafasi, nikawa corporation MC, wamenitumia katika road shows. Wameni second, nimekwenda BBC, nimepresent kipindi cha BBC Sema Kenya. Wameni second, nimekwenda ICC, nimesomea mambo ya international crime. So KBC imenijenga.
Kwa hiyo Moreno Ocampo anakutambua.
Ananitambua.
Fatou Bensouda anakutambua.
Fatou Bensouda huwa tunachat wote.
Karim Khan anakutambua.
Kabisa.
Msikilizaji, kama ndio unafungulia radio ya kwako, kumbuka kwamba sasa hivi tuko live kupitia radio, vile vile tuko live kupitia KBC Channel 1. Kwa hiyo ukifungulia TV na radio yako ukifungulia, wote utaona sura na utasikia pia sauti.
Yani leo unasikiliza Zinga na unaitazama moja kwa moja kupitia Good Morning Kenya. Kumbuka msikilizaji, hashtag ni Good Morning Kenya. Kwa hiyo kwa sasa tunataka macho yote, si Kenya peke yake, dunia mzima msikilizaji, mufungue Channel 1 KBC. Kumbuka pia kwenye tovuti unaweza kuwapata at www.kbc.co.ke.
Kabisa.
Alright, tukiendelea mbele Boni na mahojiano yetu. Pengine kuna kitu gani ambacho msikilizaji anauliza? Huyu Boni ameamua sasa, wacha niache utangazaji. Je, unaenda kufuga kuku au unaenda kushona viatu ndugu yangu?
Swali la wengi. Swali la wengi.
Sasa mimi nakwenda kufanya mambo mawili. Jambo la kwanza, nimeweka radio station yangu. Radio station yangu inaitwa Sangu FM na ni ya Kikamba. Na iko hapa Nairobi lakini inapatikana Kitui, Machakos, Makueni na online. Wale wako online wanaweka www.sangufm.co.ke na pia iko na app kwenye Google Play Store. Ninakwenda kuisimamia maana tayari ina wafanyikazi zaidi ya 25 kutoka Ukambani.
Wafanyikazi wangapi?
Zaidi ya 25.
Imeanza kitambo hii.
Nilianza nilipojua kwamba naelekea katika sunset days za KBC.
Ulikuwa ushajiset?
Nilikuwa nishajipanga. Kwa hivyo hata nikitoka hapa na kwenda hapo Sangu FM sasa. Hilo ni jambo la kwanza. Na hiyo inaitwa giving back to the society. Nimekuwa miaka 14. What can I show? Nimetoka nayo KBC. At least nimewapelekea radio so that kile nimekuwa nikifanya hapa nifanye vijana wengine nao wakifanya upande ule mwingine. Jambo la pili ni kwamba watu wa Kitui Central waliniomba mwaka 2018 niwe mbunge wao 2022. Na kwa hivyo nimekuwa chini ya maji nikishirikiana nao, na kwenda nauliza kina mama, na kwenda nauliza vijana, na kwenda nauliza wazee, na wote wamekubali. Wameniambia kwamba kwa vile mbunge wa sasa amemaliza miaka 10, hawataki kumuongeza mingine 5, maana akimuongeza hakuna kitu kingine atafanya kipya. Kwa hivyo wangependa upya, kitu kipya. Wangependa uongozi wa vijana ambao ni mpya, na ndio wakaniita Nzeve Nzao, kumaanisha fresh air.
Fresh air ndo Nzeve
Nzao. Kwa hivyo sasa mnamo tarehe 9 mwezi huu wa 8 nitakuwa nawania kiti cha ubunge cha Kitui Central.
Boni, wanasiasa imekuwa ni ndoto yako pia?
Sikuwa natamani kuwa mwanasiasa kutoka zamani, lakini baadaye nilipokaa hapa kwenye KBC nikaona ile conmanship iko katika uongozi. Nikaona kwa vile Mungu amenipa roho ya kuwa straight, nikiingia katika siasa nitaboresha mambo.
By the way Boni, leo uliset alarm?
Leo kuko na leo nimeamka 11 na dakika 12.
Sasa kwa sababu safari yako inaelekea kwenye uongozi, unaweza kuwa na wosia gani kwa viongozi ambao wako sasa hivi?
Kwanza kabisa nitazungumzia wale wa kule nakotoka, Kitui. Shida moja ambayo tuko nayo Mwajuma kule Ukambani ni kwamba viongozi wetu wengi wanapoingia uongozini wanatudanganya. Wanatuahidi mambo mangapi? Matatu. 1, nitawaletea maji. Maji.
Sio mayai. Utapata maji.
Nitawaletea maji. Nitatengeneza mbalambala. Na 3, nitatengeneza elimu.
Elimu pia inatengenezwa.
Sasa hayo mambo matatu ndio tumekuwa tukiahidiwa tangu 1963 kule Ukambani. Lakini hutapata maji. Barabara ndio zimeanza kutengenezwa the other day na bado hatujafika mahali popote. Unaona? Swala la elimu ni CDF. Sasa unapata mbunge mzima kitu anachoweza kufanya ni kupatia watu basari, kupaka rangi madarasa na vile vile kujenga madarasa mapya. Sasa huyu amefanya kazi ya ubunge. Is that for real? Really? Shida ya watu wa Kitui Central sio barabara, maji na mambo ya elimu pekee. Shida kubwa ni poverty, umaskini.
Right kabisa msikilizaji, saa 2:31 sasa kanda ya Afrika Mashariki. Unasikiliza KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya, na wakati huo pia hakikisha unakodoa macho yako kodo kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1. Kumbuka kipindi ni Zinga, ikiwa ni makala ya mwisho na special kwa mtangazaji maarufu, mtangazaji ambaye amejaliwa kila kitu,
aliyebobea.
Yaani huyu jamaa anaweza hata akamuigiza kuku anavyoweka. Boni kuku weka vipi?
Hiyo ni baadaye nawe.
Hapo na sauti ya viongozi tofauti.
Kumbuka unaweza kuwasiliana nasi msikilizaji, kumbuka nambari zetu za simu ni 0700176699. Tutakupatia fursa uweze kusema na Boni kwa mara ya mwisho hapa ndani ya Radio Taifa, na kumbuka hashtag
ni #Good Morning Kenya, na vile vile kuna hashtag ya Zinga.
Right kabisa, hata Doreen, Jen na vile vile Victor wanasema pia wao wanatizama kipindi, alafu Ben Ngui anasema ukiwa mbunge yeye huenda akawa gavana Kitui.
Hapa nampata Amenya Basweti Malaika Mfalme anasema all the best Boni. Nimekuwa shabiki yako tangu 2010, all the best. Alafu kuna mwingine anauliza kama mtangazaji umepitia changamoto gani?
Changamoto moja kubwa ni kuamka asubuhi na mapema. Wajua kutoka 2008 kwanza nilianza nikiamka 2:30 AM.
Na kuelewa.
Baadaye nikaanza kuamka 3. Baadaye nikaanza kuamka 4. Sasa shida yangu kubwa ni kwamba hata weekend lazima niamke mapema. Ndio. Yaani mwili wangu ni kama umeshazoea. Hiyo ni changamoto, hilo ni changamoto la kwanza. Changamoto la pili ni kwamba lazima uwe fresh kila siku. So that means maisha yako yote lazima yawe utangazaji.
Ndio.
Ukiwa kwenye matatu unafikiria kesho utasema nini. Jioni ukiongea na wife unachukua link hapo.
By the way, Budi, umetaja swala la wife. Labda kuna yule ambaye anayekusikiliza kwa sasa. Je, mke wako ulimpata vipi? Ulimpata wapi? Na amekuwaje katika maisha yako?
Wow, una maswali mazuri.
Watoto wangapi?
Toka hapa tukutane kantini.
Lakini kantini iwe ni ile ya Villa Rosa Kempinski.
Do you know vile nilimpata my wife?
Sijui.
It was very funny. Yule Ben Ngui ambaye alinisaidia kupata attachment ndiye alinifanya akapata wife.
Aki Ben, toka hapa.
Kwa sababu my wife Betty anatoka nyumbani kwa kina Ben. Sasa alikuwa amekuja tu kutafuta attachment hapa KBC. Kupitia kwa Ben. Nikawapata canteen. Nikamsalimia. Nikamwambia Ben, huyu dada mzuri huyu. Sasa si anipe namba ya simu. Dada akanipa namba ya simu. Tukapoteleana kwa mwaka mzima. Lakini sasa after 1 year tukakutana Kisasi Secondary School. Nilikuwa nimeenda kama old boy. Na kumbe my brothers za huyo wife walikuwa wanasomea katika hiyo shule. Ilikuwa ni parents day. Sasa akanitext akaniambia, "Hi Boni, tulikutana KBC last year na niko hapa." Kutoka hiyo siku moja kwa moja paka bedroom kwangu nikamuoa. Nikamuoa.
Ukafunga chapter.
Nikafunga chapter.
Umebarikiwa na watoto wangapi?
Watoto wawili, Lovelyn Mutano, Takisha Matana. Wote wasichana.
Mke wako amekuwa nguzo gani katika maisha yako?
My wife has been everything. My wife zile nguo unaona nikivaa ndiye ananunua. My wife ndiye amekuwa kisimamia radio yangu Sangu FM nikiwa hapa KBC.
Ndio.
My wife hata katika siasa ndiye ana prepare ground. Anafika kule kila asubuhi Saturday nikienda nyumbani. Kuna kuja zaidi ya watu 700 katika compound yangu. My wife anawanywesha wote chai, mikate na anahakikisha kwamba kama kuna chakula wengine wanakula.
Ndio.
So my wife ni anka katika kila kitu. Na my wife ni muombaji mkubwa.
Kwa hiyo msemo wa behind every successful man there is a woman, ni kweli?
Ni kweli kabisa, na ukweli wa mambo singekuwa vile nilivyo kama Betty hangekuwa nyuma yangu.
So alikuwa huko nyuma.
Betty, big up.
Right kabisa msikilizaji, saa 3 bado dakika 25 saa za kanda ya Afrika Mashariki. Unasikiliza Zinga kupitia KBC Radio Taifa sauti ya Mkenya, na wakati huo unatizama Zinga kwenye runinga ya kitaifa ya KBC Channel 1. Kumbuka mpango mzima hashtagi ni Good Morning Kenya, hashtagi ni Zinga. Tutapata mapumziko mafupi, tutakaporudi tutasonga mbele. Mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo.
Mimi niite Mwajuma Ali, ukipenda niite Chozi la Almasi.
Nami naitwa Boni Musambi aka Boni aka Le Jayon de la Presse Africaine aka Boni da Santos Musambi da Silva.
Kumbuka msikilizaji, hii ni Zinga na Zinga ni sisi.
Juhudi za Rais Uhuru Kenyatta za kustawisha viwanda nchini zimechangia pakubwa katika kuunda nafasi zaidi za kazi na kukuza uchumi wa taifa hili. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
We have made a deliberate decision to prioritize the development of micro, small and medium enterprises as part of our Big Four agenda.
We've also seen under the regime of President Kenyatta some favorable legislations that are now put in place. The environment for manufacturing is now becoming more conducive to investors.
Kuna mashini zingine ziko pale zimekuja, mashini ambayo ni modern, sio kama zile za zamani tulikuwa tunatumia. Yenyewe kusema ukweli, kazi huru tumeona akiwa ametufanyia kazi poa.
Walking around MLW saying you undefeated.
He is undefeated here at MLW.
Nah. And give you $150.
And now contra unit again with a beatdown. Here comes more officials.
Barrington Hughes, your streak ends.
The mighty will fall.
We are Contra Unit.
Wauliza kama nani? Yaani wauliza iweje?
Wewe wanijibu kama nani mwanzo wewe?
Basi mwambie ushamsaaje, maana yeye ndio ni mvivu kama nini.
Una miguu? Wewe anituma mimi.
Ni muhimu sana tuweze kushirikiana. Bila kushirikiana hii kazi tutafanya vipi? Wananchi wanatutegemea sisi.
Hii kesi lazima iende mahakamani na mahakama ndio itatoa final decision. Umesikia mzee?
Nimekuelewa.
This is still Good Morning Kenya. We are glad you are still keeping us company. And just before we went for that break, we were linking up with our sister brother station on the other side of the radio side of the divide, just getting to have a quick conversation with one of us, that is Boni Musambi, who has been part of the corporation 14 years on. You know, the journey started from way back when, and now he's gotten to a time where he's leaving the corporation and venturing onto the political side. And of course, looking at the fact that he is a Jordan journalist, that will go a long way in just, you know, setting him up to do better, understanding the consequences that come being, you know, as a leader and also being on the other side as part of the watchdog population when it comes to the information that we get to tell our people, because we see a lot of sensationalization during this political campaigning time, and given we just have about 6 months to go, it is bound to get, you know, hotter and more sensitive. But we do hope, you know, moving forward, he has the love from the corporation. You can see him dancing over there. I don't know if they can be able to hear us, but this also gets me thinking, you know, and Victor, you can just quickly jump in on this. 6 months to go, guys have already left their offices, different backgrounds. Everyone has their own particular, you know, professional background, and they're jumping into the political space. And we're seeing so many young people at it for that matter. Do you feel like our professional background will really determine the kind of leadership that we will bring, looking at those that are jumping into this particular conversation or rather race?
We have some of our former colleagues who are actually in the political scene. We have got Moha, quote unquote, Jichopevu. We have got, you know, John Kiare, who is also there. We have got so many journalists actually who are also eyeing for that particular seat. But you know, politics is open for all. It's a democracy. So it all depends with what kind of services that they are going to give people out there. Because when you get to the political world, it changes altogether. It's a complete paradigm shift from now this profession and getting into politics, because even the way you'll be interacting with people, the way you'll be thinking, how you'll be handling yourself completely changes. You're moving, for example, in our profession, you don't have Mr. Mrs. You're called, however old you are, you're called by your name, Victor Olo. All right, but then when you go out there, you get accustomed to the new name, Mheshimiwa, Honorable Victor Olo. These are some of the things, but you know what happens? It's a calling. When you leave this noble profession and you get into politics, then it means that you are going to serve the people out there. If you have that calling, the desire, the passion to change from one profession into the next one, then it has to be intentional.
Absolutely.
That whatever you're going to do out there to the people is not for your own benefits, as people would say, but to change the lives of your constituents. That's why most people say that I'm leaving lucrative jobs. You know, others are quitting medicine, others quitting, you know, plum jobs like the CSS who left yesterday, and they're getting into politics. But for them, you can still say they're a political lion.
Absolutely, because
So
he will
for
not
Boni-
leave his journalistic skills behind.
Exactly.
All right. Now we want to cross on over again back to Radio Taifa to just get to listening to what more he has for the people of Kitui. You know, his manifesto, his plans, what we should expect from him as a corporation, because, you know, he said that the corporation really
And he's
built
in
him
yellow.
and brought him to where he is.
I think it's default set.
True to his color. All right, let's cross on over to Radio Taifa with Rashid Wamkondo and, of course, the team over there.
Etishia ni mmoja wale ambao walitupatia kazi ya roadshow hapa KBC. Anasema anasikiliza na anafurahia. Kuna kijana kwa jina Kioko Muteti. Nimemwona pia Edwin Nyarangi Biogo, tulisoma naye Mombasa Poli kitambo. Pia anasema anasikiliza Caleb Mutonya, David Mtana wa Mwaringa. Jamaa ambaye alisupport sana Zinga.
Jamaa mwenye anajisauti.
Na by the way, tulipomaliza harusi yetu na Betty, Mwaringa ndiye alitupokea huko kwao.
Walipokwenda honeymoon.
Akatupeleka honeymoon.
Yeye ndo aliwapeleka. Okay. Sasa Boni, labda nikuulize tu kitu gani ambacho hujafanya? Manake kuna blogs hizi ambazo zimeandikwa kwamba Boni, wewe ni mtangazaji wa redio, mtangazaji wa TV. Boni ukaambiwa wewe ni comedian. Sijui una ukweli uko wapi. Tukaambiwa pia Boni ni mwanamuziki wa gospel. Mambo mengi.
This guy is blessed, man.
Kitu gani ambacho umefanya na kitu gani ambacho hujafanya?
Ukweli hapo kwa comedy kuna kitu watu hawajui. Nimekuwa katika XYZ show.
Okay.
Nikifanya sauti ya Ruto, Raila, Joho, Sosion. If the government does not pay teachers, it will know it is playing with fire. Unajua hiyo?
Wewe ni Sosion,
Joho, marehemu Kaiseri alikuwa anafanya sauti yake. Watu wengi sana. Upande wa comedy, upande wa gospel ni kweli.
Boni Musambi.
Cynthia Anyango ametoka wapi?
Nimeshtuka mimi. Cynthia.
Nimesema lazima tule keki. Nimesema.
Hebu kwanza tumkaribishe Cynthia. Cynthia. Nilikuacha awendo.
Uliniacha si haya.
Sasa umepata nini hapa Cynthia?
Naona siku hizi umepata mrembo mwingine. Ndio maana sipigie simu. Wanaume. Yaani this kind of farao.
Ndio maana anajifanya ameshangaa hapa. Cynthia umetokea wapi? Nashukuru.
Naona umeketia.
Nimeketia hapa, mmeniachia kiti migumu. Na viatu vikubwa.
Unasikiaje?
Viatu ni vikubwa. Namba ngapi?
Wacha nikirudi mwezi wa 4.
Cynthia karibu. Labda tu kabla hatujamaliza kipindi. Leo ni siku speciali sana yake Boni Musambi. Anaona kwa kweli mmeandamana hapa na Rebecca Cherotich. Becky karibia hapa. Anaona pia George Zwaka. Becky karibia hapa.
George, kwani mimi ndo mnanikimbia? Jioni kwenye hii mic pia.
Hapana.
Wanataka partner
Alikuwa anataka partner na unajua anasema siku zote kifupi kinaenda na mrefu.
Toba. Sasa basi mimi ndo nafanya nije huko kwa sababu wewe mfupi mimi ni mrefu.
Nani mfupi? Wacha matusi bwana.
Waka hapo toka.
Siko vizuri.
Waka hapo toka. Hapo tulishamaliza. Hapo toka. Toka kabisa.
Sasa wewe ni mfupi.
Umeona nimefuata mahali amekaa hapo. Hakuna mtu anamkaribia. Sasa naanza kukuta. Nilikuwa nimeenda. Nimerudi kwa sababu ya keki.
Kokoto tutashamalizana.
Ni kwa sababu ya keki.
Oda. Yaani mmevamia nyumba yetu na mnatupigia kelele. Becky.
Ndio.
Si tulikataliana kitambo. Basi labda tuko haraka msikilizaji kabla kuweza kurudi kwa Bodi. Msikilizaji studioni, kumbuka tuko na watangazaji ambao wamekuja kumwambia Bodi kwa heri. Tuko naye Cynthia Anyango. Cynthia, najua umekuwa likizo lakini
mpaka niko likizo mpaka sasa.
Yaani wewe unajua vile mimi ninavyojua Cynthia. Wewe ni PA wa Boni. Hebu tuelezee mawili matatu kuhusiana na hili jamaa.
Sio PA nawe.
Ni nini?
Co-presenter.
Wacha. Cynthia ni ruka.
Tumekuwa na Boni kuanzia mwaka 2011, kwa hivyo ni miaka kama mingapi? Miaka 10 hivi. Nimefanya na yeye zinga na Boni kweli amenishika mkono kwa kule Mombasa, nikaja hapa Nairobi. Na bwana nikasema leo itakuwaje eti hata kama ananyonyesha. Lazima nije nimwage kwa sababu acha nikwambie Mwajuma, nilikuja kama niko green kabisa, kwa sijui chochote lakini Boni akanishika mkono, akanifundisha mambo mengi hapa mpaka ni sasa hivi naweza kufanya zinga vizuri comfortable. Hata bila yeye, bila Mwajuma, bila unaona kwa hivyo yani amekuwa kielelezo kizuri sana maishani mwangu na pia katika taaluma yangu ya utangazaji. Namshukuru sana, kila mahali nikienda lazima nitataja jina la Boni kwanza maana yani amenifunza mengi sana ambayo sikuwa nimeyapata hapo awali.
Alright. Labda tu kwa sababu ya muda tuwapatie na wengine nafasi moja. Wajua kuna maswali mawili lazima nimuulize Boni. Twende kwake George Zwaka. George Zwaka, karibu sana. Kumbuka uko live kwenye KBC Channel 1. Kumbuka msikilizaji,
na naona.
Unaona vipi na uko mbele? Nasikia. Hebu tuambie tu kwa muktasari, urafiki wako na Boni umefanya kazi vipi na anapoondoka unamwambia nini?
Urafiki wangu na Boni unaanza mwaka wa 2013 wakati ambapo tulikuwa tumekwenda kwenye mashindano ya wanahabari. Wakati huo nikifanya katika kituo cha Radio Africa. Na ni kwamba alikuja akaniambia mwenyewe kwamba ningependa tuweze kufanya naye katika kituo cha KBC. Katika hiyo harakati akaja akazungumza naye mzee Kingasia na wakawasiliana na wakubwa wengine, na mwaka wa 2014 kabla mashindano ya kombe la dunia nikaweza kujiunga na kituo cha KBC. Kwa hivyo tumekuwa pamoja kwa muda mrefu, amenilea, tumesaidiana kimawaidha na katika shughuli kibao sana. Nitamkosa zawadi ndio sina. Ingalikuwa ni kule nyumbani, pengine kuko angalikimbizwa na nikampa.
Hebu kwa haraka upesi. Yuko Cynthia, yuko Becky, yuko Kokoto, yuko Mwajuma, yuko Kings na yuko Boni. Hebu tutangazia mpira Boni akiwa mshambulizi.
Haya, anakwenda kuchukua ile ngoma nyuma kabisa ni mchezaji Cynthia Nyango Azinga, anakuja anampangia King'asi I say father. Anapiga kwenye kidari, anapiga sabu ya kwanza ya pili, anamtafuta beki Cherotich anatoka kasi. Kama unavyojua tu ya kwamba jina Cherotich mara nyingi inapatikana kwenye fani ya riadha. Anapiga chenga ya kwanza ya pili, anamgaragazia, anapiga kwake mchezaji Mwajuma anaingia mzima kwake Mwamkondo anakuja kwa haraka kutoka cross ball Msambi kichwa kama mkuki go.
Nataka nimwambie Boni kila laheri kwa sababu
katika siasa jamani
miezi kama 3 sijaambia Maika. Boni wenda siasa kwa hivyo Boni nakutakia kila laheri, ujue kwamba utapata support yetu 100%. Na tunajua kwamba kule bwana kwa sababu ni nzeve nzao yani fresh air bila shaka wataipata wana Kitui Central. Kwa hivyo leo nawahimiza wana Kitui Central wachague nani? Nzeve nzao.
Asante. Umelipia. Vile pia yuko hapa Rebecca Cherotich. Labda tu beki kwa sekunde kadhaa. Tuambie mlijuana vipi na Boni katika maisha yenu ya kufanya kazi. Unaweza kumdescribe vipi kwa sekunde 30?
Nina mambo mengi sana ya kusema, nikianza tutamaliza. Lakini alinishika mkono. Nilianza pale Kitwek FM, akanishika, amenikuza mpaka sasa. I have a lot to say about you. Lakini for now nakutakia kila laheri kwa siasa. Asante kwa kunishika mkono, kwa kunijenga. Watu wa Kitui, this is the fresh air. Peni kura jamaa yetu.
Asante.
Na kila laheri.
Asante.
Alright, sasa tunamalizia na King Asia, yani mfalme wa bara Asia. Huyu ni mtangazaji maarufu wa shirika la utangazaji nchini, anajulikana kama Martin King Asia. Bwana King Asia, naona leo umepiga suti ya hali ya juu. Karibu sana.
Asante brother. Kwa kweli nimepiga suti. Hii suti huvaliwa mara 2 peke yake. Kwa sababu mara ya kwanza nikaenda kufanya interview ya kupita. Mara ya pili ni kumwaga kijana yangu. Huyu kijana nimemjua tangu 2007. Wakati akija alikuwa kijana mtoro. Ndio sababu hapo ndio chimbuko la jina kijana mtoro. Na his longest serving boss. Kwa hivyo pale bungeni wakitaka maelezo kumhusu waje waniulize.
Very good.
Ni kijana shupavu, ana bidii na ana kipawa. Ana vipawa vya aina nyingi, mwanamuziki, ni actor, mtangazaji na pia ana roho safi. Kwa sababu nafikiri ni hali na kwa kweli kwa ufupi tu ni kwamba namtakia kila na kula laheri Boni. Go well.
Thank you.
All is well ahead. Utukumbuke, usitusahau.
Siwezi.
Ukishachaguliwa njoo kina Mkondo atakuwa hapa, watakuhoji ukiwa mbunge na pia we shall cover you.
Asante.
Alright, na tunamalizia moja kwa moja na Ben Ngui Kamuti. Karibu sana. Huyu ni miongoni mwa wale waelekezi. Alafu akimaliza tu tunakuwa tunakata keki. Msikilizaji, kumbuka tunamalizia hapa. Hawa jamaa wameinterrupt ndani ya studio. Ben Ngui, kwa dakika sekunde. Tumia hiyo mic ulionayo. Kwa mara ya kwanza unaonekana kwenye runinga.
Na mimi ndio nawekanga watu kwa runinga.
Labda utasema nini kwa mafupi kuhusiana na ndugu yako Boni Msambi?
Mimi Boni, mimi namtakia kila laheri. Tulijua tukiwa Kisasi Secondary School. Mimi nilikuwa form 1 yako form 2 hapo tu. Na tunamfuata hapo mbele tu. Mtu mzuri akanifanya. Alikuwa school captain wangu. Boni kuna coffee ulinipiga by the way. Tangu nilikuwa form 1. Nilikuwa nimefanya aje? Ama sikuwa nimeandika nini?
Ulikuwa katika list ya noisemakers.
Alinipiga coffee na akasema kutoka leo wewe ndio utakuwa class monitor. Unajua huko school captain akisema hata principal hawezi pinga, anakuambia is your school captain and he can even suspend you for 2 weeks. So ukiambiwa hivyo, so unaona unajua naye Boni tumeenda sana, yani mpaka hata siku moja nimpata pale kwa gate tu, mimi nikiwa hapa tu akaniambia mimi natafuta attachment hapa, nikamwambia aya kuja ingia. Akaingia kijana ametoboa. Mimi namsikia kila laheri, ni best yangu yani. Tumetoka mbali. Hata waacha hivyo. Sisi kama nakwambia bibi mimi ndio nilishughulika.
Amesema kila kitu. Amemwaga kila kitu.
Hapa si mimi.
Sasa sijui ni mhengo wala ni mshengo. Asante sana Bena. Labda tu Boni, mara ya mwisho kabla kuweza kuingia kwenye taarifa ya habari, ni kitu gani ambacho unakwenda kuwafanyia watu wa Kitui Magharibi ama Kitui Central, Kitui ya Kati, ambacho mbunge ambaye yuko sasa hajafanya, ama ni kitu gani kipi unakwenda kuwafanyia?
Kwa kifupi sana, kwa sababu siwezi kuzungumza manifesto yote.
Ndio
nilikueleza kwamba shida moja ya wabunge tulionao ni kwamba wanategemea basari tu kupatia watoto wasome, wajenge madarasa na wapake rangi. Lakini Kitui shida kubwa ni poverty eradication. Kwa hiyo miradi ambayo nimeandaa ni miradi ya kupambana na umaskini. Nikupe mfano mmoja tu. Tutakwenda tutachukua mayouth wote ambao wako katika kila ward 5 za Kitui Central. Tutawaweka katika SACCOS 5. Then tufanye classification. Ni wangapi wako na diploma na degree? Hao tutafutie kazi. Ni wangapi ambao wana talent kama ya plumbing, electrical engineering na vitu kama hivyo, tupeleke katika tertiary institutions kwa hisani ya mbunge. And then ni wangapi wamebaki hawakusoma lakini wanaweza kufanya biashara. Hao tutafanyia training. Alafu tutamwaga pesa katika kila sako, wachukue loan wakafanye biashara na warudishe bila interest. Hiyo ni njia moja rahisi sana.
Huyu ni Mheshimiwa Boniface Mosambi aka Fresh Air aka
Nzevenzao.
Boni, utaliwia radhi, mashabiki wangelipenda kuzungumza na wewe lakini muda hatunasi. Lakini pengine kuna yule shabiki ambaye angetaka kukutumia SMS, kukupigia simu. Labda kuna nambari ya simu ambayo unaweza ukawapatia?
Mashabiki wangu wa Radio Taifa, kwanza nawashukuru kwa kunishika mkono, ndio wamenikuza. Na siwezi kutoka hapa bila kuwapa link ya kuzungumza nami. Anytime unataka kuongea nami, kuna nambari ya simu ambayo ukipiga unaweza nipata, au ukapata mwenzangu pale, alafu atachukua details zako na nitakupigia. Nambari yangu ya simu ambayo utasema nami nayo wakati wowote ni 0101 027 120. Narudia 0101 027 120. Hata ukipiga sasa hivi itashikwa. 0101 027 120. Anytime text me, talk to me, kwa sababu lazima niwepo pia kwa mashabiki wangu.
Kwa heshima yako Boni, kabla tuweze kukata keki na kucheza kidogo, chukua fursa hii kuweza kuwaaga watangazaji wenzako na wakuu wako ambao wamesimama nawe tangu ulipojiunga na shirika hili.
Nawashukuru sana wote, nikianza na Dr. Naim Bilal. Every time akikutana nami, Boni, that was a very beautiful show. You know, I love what you did this morning on Ujumbe Maalum. I love it. Thank you very much. Asante Chris Mutungi. Sitasahau wote mamaneja kama Momanyi, vile Maina, you know. Na pale kwa Radio Jona Kusero amenijenga sana. Martin Kingasia, Salome Galgalo, Maura, Lois Wanyoike, wote na watangazaji wote wa Radio Taifa ambao wamenishika mkono. Huyu Cynthia Nyango namwona hapa.
Ndio.
Kama si Cynthia, Boni hangekuwa na jina leo.
Asante.
Maana amekuwa support system ya hali ya juu sana.
Ni kama moyo wako.
Kabisa huyu Cynthia. Nishukuru KBC. Unajua KBC, unajua Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Lakini ina maana nyingine. KBC. Kokoto Boni Cynthia.
Kokoto Boni Cynthia.
That collabo sitawaisahau. Nimshukuru in a special way Rebecca Cherotich. She has been the one tweeting nikiwa kwa show. Na vile vile wengine ambao wamekuwa kinishika mkono. Wewe pia nakushukuru na Mwajuma. Asante kwa kutake over. Asante George Waka. Asante kila mtu ambaye amesimama nami. Na kama nisemavyo, kama nilifanya vizuri nikiwa KBC, utukufu wote ni kwa Mungu. Kama nilikosea mahali nisamehe. Na naomba Mwenyezi Mungu anishike mkono kuanzia sasa kuendelea.
Alright, asante sana msikilizaji. Basi sasa wacha tukate keki. Watu wa keki wape nduru wewe.
Asante kwa kazi nzuri. Boni Musambi twakusherehekea sana baba. Boni Musambi twakusherehekea.
In recent past, there have been reported cases of highly adulterated honey that could have serious health implications as well as economic consequences. Well, this week on The Process, we take a look at how honey is processed. A fresh batch of harvested honey is received from farmers and various suppliers.
We do some tests for if there is any adulteration in the honey.
Here, the honey is taken through a number of quality assurance tests that check, among other things, the presence of commercial sugars, moisture content, color.
So when it turns red like this, your honey is not good for human consumption, and we reject that. But if it retains its color like this is good. And also, we have our refractometer. We do check the moisture content. And the required moisture content is between 13 and 22%.
Depending on where and how the honey was harvested, it contains varied properties.
The reason why we have different colors of honey depends with the vegetation where the bees forage the nectar and pollen. Also, what can determine the color is mode of harvesting. If you harvest poorly, poor processing methods can affect the taste of the honey and the color. If you over smoke, maybe your honey could have been light, it will be darker. But the main reason for color in the honey is where the bees forage the pollen and the nectar, and the region. We can have black, we can have white. It depends with the vegetation and the season of harvest.
Once the testing is done, the honey is then weighed in preparation for the warming process.
When you finish your processing in the warmer, it cuts some certain kgs because of the dirty present in the honey. So the reason is that you should know, when doing your records, you should know how many kgs you have lost from the warmer, and during packaging, you have to lose also.
The honey is then transferred into a warmer where it is heated up for 4 hours at certain temperatures between 40 to 45 degrees centigrade.
The purpose for warming the honey is to lengthen the crystallization process. And crystallization it occurs when the glucose content is higher than the fructose.
After warming, the honey undergoes the filtration or sieving process.
After the 4 hours, we filter or we sieve to separate the molten wax, impurities, the dead bees present in the honey. Then we get the pure honey, which is clean for human consumption. Then we allow it to settle.
It then undergoes the cooling process where it is allowed to settle for a period of 48 to 72 hours.
During cooling period, the top cream settles at the top, while some dust settles at the bottom. So we allow it to settle before packaging and remove the top cream before packaging.
After cooling, the honey is now ready for packaging. After packaging, labeling, sealing takes place, rendering the product ready for distribution. There you have it, refined honey. Jackie Wambiru, The Process.
So you have it there. Boni Musambi is now officially diving into the political waters. We wait and see whether he will deliver to the residents of constituents of Kitui Central.
Yes.
Yes, Kitui Central, and we all wish him all the very best. He is among a couple of government officials and even those people who are planning to get into politics. Today being the last day, we expect more people to tender their resignations today. as per the law, and that is going to be happening later in the day. Today being the 9th of February, 6 months to election date, that is the 9th of August, as per the Constitution. Everybody and anybody who is willing to yearning for a political seat should vacate office by end of business today. We've been having a lot of conversation with the several aspirants here in this particular show, and one thing is certain: most people say that they are driven by the desire to deliver services. But Doreen, just to get your word, do you really think that most people, when they go to these houses, either Parliament, Senate, or County Assembly, whichever post they go for, do you feel that they deliver to the best of the expectation?
Let me just start from where I got stuck. This is politics being a calling, or those elective positions being a calling. And when we were beginning, even before we moved to Radio Taifa, there's something that Wamboi said and I picked, and this is that not only are we seeing good number of people going for this position, but also a majority of them from the younger population or the youth. Right now, especially in 2022, we don't know about 2027 and 32, but so far, this is the year that has formed a majority of what we call the celebrities or people in the arts, music, and the likes going for these positions, journalists, and most of them elective positions. And yes, you mentioned we've been speaking to aspirants, and also tomorrow we'll be speaking to one, that is Dr. Munyao, who is vying for an MP seat in Matungulu constituency, that is in Machakos County. And I was just listening to what most of this, if I may call them, young leaders or celebrities moving to this other side of leadership and politics. And a good number of them said that Kenyans, and specifically young people, are tired with the older generation, and this is part of what is informing their decision to get into politics. So I do not know where this leaves the aspect of delivering, as you asked, Victor, because yes, they would say we want to deliver, we want to do this for our people, but again, when you really listen to a good number of them, is because they say youths are tired of older generation. They have not done for us what we wanted them to do for us. So we feel as a younger generation, we want to get into these positions to deliver to our youth. But again, let's just be true to ourselves. When we see most of these young people go into these positions, and again, most of them artists, let's not pinpoint fingers, but just from the ones that we've seen, have we seen this happening? Looking at Starehe, for instance, as a constituency, are they still speaking of these ills as they would speak about them when they were into what we would call, as it was their calling back then? Because the musicians, the journalists, the artists, when you look at their craft, they really talk about ills that happen in society. When you, for instance, Starehe MP Jagwa, when he was a musician and he would sing a lot about what politicians are doing, about what Kenyans need when it comes to services. When we saw him get into this position, I really cannot, I mean, let's just be very practical about this. He would sing about these things. Again, Muhammad Ali, when he was a journalist, Jichopevu was a thing. Kenyans would wait to just listen and watch to the exposés. What are our leaders doing? I mean, as Kenyans, we deserve these services to some extent. And he would paint for us a picture, and he would make us see what we deserve as Kenyans, and even specifically a younger population. When he went for these seats...
Yes. And that is why I said that most of these politicians change. They do change. The moment they get into these positions, their way of thinking, the way they talk, the way they handle themselves, the way they articulate issues, they get into the system. Because you can imagine, you've talked about Jichopevu.
Yeah.
It would have been so difficult to, you know...
So is this really a calling?
Exactly. The same government you're serving. Do you think... I don't think so. I don't know what's your point, Jane, because most young people right now, even most of the people that we've interviewed here, say that their only agenda is to go there and to make a change. But do we see that change?
Well, you know, they say change is the only true constant. And rightfully so. Even you, when you go to a different space, a new environment, a new working space, you're bound to change. And now the change now boils down to you as an individual. How will it go? Are you still going to be anchored by your principles, by what drives you, or you're going to conform to the institution and the space that you are moving into? But then again, we also have to acknowledge that we are seeing people putting themselves out there. It's not easy to resign and campaign for a job that you're not sure of, because again, it's now going to the ground to do the campaigns and try to speak to the people, sell your manifesto, your ideas to the people. And if they buy into your ideas and the promises you make for them, then the people will vote for you. But there's only one particular slot for that particular job that you're hopefully vying to get. So them putting themselves out there, and especially the youth, it's really good. And, you know, looking back at the 2017 general elections, that was actually the time in Kenya's history that recorded the highest number of younger people putting themselves out there and going for these seats. And I'm sure once IEBC has all the members of each party, once all those what are they called? Once the parties have their primaries, they register their names and everything is concluded, I think in March.
Yeah.
No, yes, in March.
In
April.
Yeah.
Just 4 months before, we will get to know who is who, the exact numbers, and we'll actually see the number of young people that have just, casted their die in the hat to just put themselves out there. So in as much as we do not know they're just going to be giving us promises, I also acknowledge the fact that putting yourself out there for people to look up to you, to judge you, to strip you bare and hold you accountable to what you do is just... It's a big step to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Victor, before you come in, let me just jump in right there and let me pick again what Jana said, because I think that is very important, not just in politics, but in every aspect of life. And she said, are you going to be anchored by your principles, or the system might sort of change you a bit? I fully understand that sometimes the system can have an inclination towards how you behave, how you act, what you do, and so on and so forth. But again, what happens to you as a person? What kind of value systems did you have when you're getting here, or are you having? What kind of principles do you uphold, and how do you draw the line?
It's about character and what your intentions are. We are trying to get hold on Bonnie. He used to do news here at the TV segment. Perhaps he's willing to come and say, Gwaeri, it would be okay. But if not, then we wish him all the best. And all the people of Kitui Central, you have your leaders, and you have got so many leaders to choose from, and make your best choice as far as voting is concerned. And what happens is that the issue of young people, there is a statistic saying that most young people are now vying for the positions of member of county assembly.
MCAs,
if you look at the educational requirements, the documents, they need the certificate, the degree, the diploma, and what have you. IEBC and the legislators had that back and forth, saying that, the minimum requirement for members of county assembly, MPs, etc., vary. But if you look at the number of people who are vying for these positions or member of county assembly, most of them are young people. And when you ask these politicians, tutaongea na nani? The next question is, ongea na MCA. So it means that these people are underrated. What do you think, Jen?
Absolutely. I think the MCA is one of those positions that is thoroughly underrated by virtue of just being a county member of the county assembly. But yet those are the guys that are heavily in touch with the local people. They are the ones who know the true situation core ground, because from the MCA, that when it will escalate to now the member of parliament, then keeps going higher and higher the hierarchy. It's the same thing with kids. Look at the family setup. As the parents, you are the presidents of that house. You think your kids don't know what is going on until they start telling you, by the way, mom, nilisikia hii na hii. And you're like, wait, where did you even get to hear that from? So I think it's one of those underrated positions, and yet if it is properly utilized and facilitated and just cushioned to actually deliver on the mandate of that particular position, it would go a really long way.
Absolutely. All right, because when you look at many people who are going to vie for these particular positions, all of them, we just wish him all the best, including Boni Musambi.
And also Mwinyi Kazungu.
Oh, yes.
Still from Radio. He's actually vying for the MCA seat.
Yeah.
So we wish him the absolute best.
Yes.
We will hold you accountable as part of this estate.
Yeah. We want them to deliver all these things that they're saying they will do for the various constituents or wards. Just make sure you deliver it to your people. Hao ndo wamekuchagua.
All right. Doreen, tumalizie tukienda.
Tukifunga hika maneno.
All right, so again, thank you so much for watching. This has obviously been Good Morning Kenya, and we've just been recapping for you what is happening in the political space, and best believe this is what we are set to do, given the fact that it's just 6 months to the general election. So Good Morning Kenya is the only way to actually be, to get all of this, that good, nice, and everything sweet. This has been Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for watching from me, and obviously on behalf of the entire team. We always appreciate you tuning in. I'm Doreen Arange Okello, and I'll leave the rest of the team to also say their names before we get to finish the show.
You've said all that needs to be said, so we will see you tomorrow. I am Jane Omboy.
All right, and I'm Victor Lo. Have a good day.
Toodaloo.
Genital mutilation is one practice, just in various parts of this country, different counties, with prevalence being in places such as Kisii, Embu, Meru, Taita Taveta, and even Kuria.
Twataka kuheshimu mila zetu, lakini ndio tuweze kuheshimu mila zetu, lazima pia tukae na tuseme zile mila ambazo zaumiza watoto wetu tuachane nazo, lakini zile mila ambazo ni za manufaa kwa watoto wetu tuendelee nazo.
The government has also made various strides with the notion of wanting to stop this practice by 2022.
When you instructed us with the Shebesh that the target of 2022 to have 0 cases of FGM is your plan, and we are trying to execute it, but Your Excellency, this cannot be done alone. First, let me thank the elders, because when they signed the declaration in the State House about 2 years ago, that was one of the new things that we, as an intervention, because fighting FGM requires several interventions. One of the intervention is where we brought in elders because they are the decision makers.
In this documentary, we learn about.
Nilisema nataka kukeketwa.
Alishika hiyo maneno kutoka kwa nyanya yake, akaja naye kutuambia ati yeye nataka.
Tulienda tukakeketa msichana mmoja, akamblindi.
We sensitized them about the dangers of FGM.
And now, I'm in Tharaka Nithi County to find out if the government interventions are bearing fruits.
Kerunya kaire ntige tonga ananka gerero ngabanakaya akandinga mukono ntige tonga ewa kwa mware enwa mugambo nchoweya.
I got an appointment with Fides Kithinji, a reformed ex-cutter who practiced FGM for decades. She underwent the cut.
Wakati nilitaidiwa nikiwa mkubwa, sababu si hakuna kampuni. Unajua hii ni kampuni yako sasa. Sasa unaona wewe ukiacha huyu akitairiwa na huyu atairiwe na huyu mwingine, wewe uwezi waachwa peke yake. Sasa unakosa kampuni. Unajua kampuni. Sasa hiyo ndio inaniwezesha nitairiwe, sababu hakuna mtu tunakaa na yeye. Nitakuwa peke yangu.
According to Fides, it was more of a ceremony than an event.
Sasa wakati huu ni wakati wa ule mtani. Ile mwenye kutairi anavaa hivi. Hata ukimwona na njia unajua yeye ni mwenye kutairi. Hata mwenye kutairiwa akiniona anajua ndio ule mtaani. Anaitwa mtaani. Sasa Zamani mwenye kutairi alikuwa anaenda akiwa anaimbiwa. Anaimba. Sasa akienda pale ataingia pole na msisana naye hapa ndio mwenye kutairiwa atatokea. Na hii mlango amalisio mambo yake na mimi nitakuwa pale nje. Sasa hii inaitwa kovia mtani. Na hii ni nkio ya mtani. Hii mti inaitwa lamara. Yaani ile pingo ya mtani. Ukienda kusukua mtani kama mtu anikujia hapa kama unatumano kama vile vijana. Kijana kama ule anakuja ananiambia tunataka uende ukatairie kwetu. Sasa leta ile pesa unakuja naye ili niweze kutoka. Kiniashie 1,000. Sasa nitampea hii. Ona, ataenda naye akijua mtani akienda atapelekea yule mwenye kutairiwa mwambie ukiona hii ujua hakuna utabadilika hata ukikataa tunakushika kwa nguvu.
Poverty made Fides to become a cutter.
Sasa nikaona nione kama nikitairi nitasapata pesa. Sasa nikaanja hapo nikafuatilia wale walikuwa na barua. Wajua huku kutairi zamani ilikuwa ukienda kutairi unaenda unapea chibu pesa. Unakupatia barua unaenda kutairi nayo. Sasa ukiwa unapata ile barua utaenda hivyo utakuwa ukienda bila amuke. Asubuhi saa 12 umetairi. Umemaliza na unapewa kitu.
For one to qualify as a cutter, one had to cut at least 10 young ladies.
Wajua ulikuwa unatairi kisirisiri, hakuna mtu anajua kama unatairi. Unaenda unatairi, unakujua unatairi unarudi. Sasa ukirundi vile wajua ni kama vile unapewa mtihani unapita. Sasa ukikuwa na watu 10 wako, sasa hiyo ndio kama unafunuliwa. Unapatiana ile sakura wanakula alafu wanakuambia sasa wewe endelea.